My name's Adil Dinani. I'm a realtor with Royal LePage focusing on new construction and project marketing and sales. I was fortunate to be part of the first Multiplex intensive that Laidler Academy held back in July. It's been a tremendous addition to our business. 3 reasons why I recommend you take it. Number one is the knowledge that we've acquired through the process. We've been selling multiplex sites for over 5 years, but the amount of information that we learned through that 5-week intensive was incredible. Things to look for when making acquisitions, things to avoid, and then just the whole network that we were introduced to. Number two is the community that was created. I've built some great friendships from being in that intensive program. There's a lot of great industry folks that are part of this platform that really hasn't existed for 20 years I've been in the business, so it's a nice way to collaborate. And lastly, the return on investment has been tremendous. We've sold over a dozen sites since taking the program, and it's given our clients, I think, the edge in the marketplace.
Thank you everybody for being here, and we're excited to have you for the Small Builder Showcase. This has been part of the Multiplex Intensive that we've been running over the last 6 months, helping small builders, developers, investors, real estate agents, and industry professionals learn about the provincial mandates to allow for between 4 and 6 units on single-family properties across the province, but more importantly in Vancouver and Burnaby, with both Vancouver and Burnaby cities having the most feasible zoning bylaws. As we wait for the final guests to funnel in. To download the Small Builders project overviews and pro formas, use the QR code on the screen now or select the link below. We'd like to give a warm welcome to Mayor of Burnaby, Mike Hurley. As a Port Moody resident, I primarily worked in Port Moody and Coquitlam, and when Burnaby came out with their small-scale multi-unit housing bylaw, it really recognized the pain and the suffering that developers go through 2.5-year rezoning processes to bring new housing units to market. And Burnaby's been in the forefront of pre-zoning, allowing for these small-scale multi-unit housing to go directly to the building permit department, and it's going to create unique, creative, and new opportunities within the city. Thank you, Mayor Hurley.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to be here in the city of Vancouver. Before we start, I'd just like to take a moment to recognize that we are in the unceded and traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, and to extend appreciation for the opportunities to be in this territory. Thank you all so much for inviting me to be part of today's seminar, and thank you all for taking the time to join us as well. Much to learn, and as we go through all these changes that are happening so quickly. I'd also like to thank Bill and the Laidler Group for hosting the event, which is an excellent opportunity to highlight the existing exciting things happening with small-scale development across Metro Vancouver. I'm pleased to have Isaak, Burnaby's Director of Neighbourhood Planning and Urban Design, with us today, and he will lead you through much more detail than I will. Carl is an expert in this field, and his presentation later today will highlight new opportunities and changes to the R1 zoning in Burnaby, which we hope will create even more humble neighborhoods for our growing community. Before we get Carl's presentation, I just wanted to take a few moments to highlight some of Burnaby's progress over the last few years when it comes to creating townhomes, multiplexes across our city. As many of you may know, we completed the Mayor's Task Force on Community Housing in 2020. Which led to sweeping changes to our approach to housing in Burnaby. One of the key recommendations from the task force was to introduce smaller scale, gentle density housing forms in a variety of neighborhoods. So we started down that process long before the province even thought about it. This summer, we introduced R1 zoning in Burnaby, which is designed to provide simpler, more flexible negotiations, more flexible regulations, and ultimately deliver a greater diversity and supply of new housing. Our goal with the creation of the R1 zoning was to allow a wide range of configurations on a given property allowing developers and residents to respond to the needs in specific neighborhoods. In addition to the flexibility, this approach also simplified our zoning processes, taking 12 different residential zones and combining them into one. It's early in the process, but so far we haven't heard any complaints from developers who miss the complexities of navigating residential zoning regulations. The new R1 zoning isn't just a boom for developers, and most importantly, it's helping to deliver the kind of housing we desperately need in Burnaby. We know that we need to build more housing quickly to respond to the housing crisis, and that's why we offer incentives to developers building more than 3 units by giving 5% additional lot coverage if you provide 4 units on the site. R1 buildings also don't require development permits, which helps us build these homes even faster. Over the last 5 years, Burnaby's approach to housing has put us at the forefront of Metro Vancouver. Things are obviously changing quickly, with new provincial rules throwing us some curveballs, to say the least. But our commitment and approach has always been to find ways to work together to meet the needs of everyone in Burnaby: residents, nonprofits, government, and the business community. And in my estimation, that approach is starting to pay off. I won't take up too much more time. There's a lot of interesting topics on the agenda today, and I'm looking forward to hearing Carl dive into the details of our R1 zoning. And again, thanks to Bill and the Laidler Group for inviting me to be here, to have the opportunity to learn from everyone in this room. Thank you for having this showcase, and I can see by the attendance people are trying desperately to get information that's needed. And I would like to just touch on one thing, though, and there's been lots of discussions around fees and charges. And I just wanted to say that I was in Ottawa last week to try and have a plead with the federal government to step up to the plate and help us lower these charges so that we can build housing in the right way. We recognize that these charges can be a burden. However, and I'm trying to get this across to the federal government to say, we get 9% of the tax revenues across this country. We have no control over who comes to our city, and we're told 1 million more people in the next number of years. Yet the federal government has been absolutely absent when it comes to funding infrastructure that's so desperately needed. And frankly, we just can't continue to build at the rate we're building if we don't build new, much-needed infrastructure. Municipalities have 2 tools available to them. They can either raise taxes or they can charge fees. And those are the only 2 tools that we are allowed to use. So when you hear of development cost charges, DCCs, really it's the only tool that's available to us, and the provincial government has made that even more because we in Burnaby used to rely on density bonusing in our 4 town centres. And unfortunately, all that has been taken away from us by the province as well. So DCCs are a reality. Would we love them to be lower? Absolutely. But they're not going to get lower unless the federal government steps in and helps to build the much needed infrastructure. So I just wanted to touch on that because it's getting much press, and I've seen it in articles in the paper and all over the news media. But they are the two tools available to the group that gets 9% of the tax revenue that Canadians pay. So I just wanted to, there may be questions around that, but that's just the reality. Someone has to pay, and unfortunately, there's only 2 ways to do that. So thank you very much for having me, Bill, and look forward to the presentations.
What a pleasure to have Mayor Mike Hurley with us today. Grateful for the leadership that you've been showing in Metro Vancouver. Looking forward to seeing other cities follow your path. As a structure for today, we're excited to announce that Laidler Capital will be launching in early 2025. Laidler Capital will be a small builder, diversified real estate development fund where we can partner with local builders like yourselves, bring you additional finance so that you can scale up your businesses, use those efficiencies to reduce the hard costs, and create more creative and affordable homes in our community.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Aasen. I'm a dealing representative with Integrated Equities, which is an exempt market dealer specializing in private equity real estate investments. My goal is to help you add real estate to your financial portfolio by sourcing lucrative deals and help developers raise capital from investors. Private equity real estate offers hands-off approach requiring no mortgage financing and a low investment minimum of $25,000. Private equity real estate offers the opportunity to invest alongside industry experts. You can leverage your registered accounts, investing using RSP, TFSA accounts, enhancing tax advantages and portfolio growth. We work with experienced management teams, each with specific investment strategies and proven track records. We are very excited to announce we will launch Laidler Capital Fund early 2025. The Laidler Capital Fund will work with builders who have at least 5 successful exits in the last 3 years, projects that have development permits in place, firm pre-sales, and a minimum of 65% of hard cost in fixed price contracts. By doing this, it greatly reduces the investment risk and gives greater certainty to success for investors. If you liked all the options presented today and can't make up your mind, Laidler Capital Fund may be the best option for you to invest in multiple projects that have the Laidler Group experience and expertise working for you. Anyone that wants to raise capital, I can help you work with your clients through a referral program. And for those wanting to get more involved and become a dealing representative like me, we'll be offering a mentoring course to teach you how it all works. So to get started, click on the QR code to book your one-on-one appointment.
Lightwell Developments has been leading the multiplex charge in Vancouver. The Lightwell team has 11 current multiplex projects in development and will be showcased first, followed by Costar Construction. Costar was the winner for the Georgie Award Best Multiplex in 2024 and has a keen eye on design. Averra Developments is with us today. Averra was the first net zero home builder in Vancouver and is leading the way with 11 completed projects within the net zero building code in Vancouver. Icon Projects, Sanj, a master home builder, is going to present a 3-unit row house project in Abbotsford. Suncap Investments is going to highlight a 71-unit CMHC rental building with an approved building permit in Port Alberni. Then the most creative builder to present today, an ex-Silicon Valley executive coming from Google to disrupt the Vancouver and Burnaby development scene with a 4-story, 4-unit condo building where he's going to disintermediate the developer profit and provide opportunities for the homeowners to participate and reduce the cost of home ownership. One of our longest time clients, Silverleaf Homes, the highest quality spec home builder in the Tri-Cities, will highlight a 4-lot subdivision in Port Moody. Then Azure Properties, a 194-unit condo land assembly in New Westminster. To finish, we'll have a presentation by Addy. Addy will show you how they're opening up the real estate development industry for investors to invest as little as $1 and participate in the growth of housing. We have 2 special guests that are going to present before we get started. First is Adil Dinani, and second, Manny will present Laidler Development's 12-unit small-scale multi-unit housing development in Burnaby. Real estate and real estate agents is a unique business where we collaborate together to help clients access homes, resolve deficiencies, buy and sell in negotiations, while also competing for market share. And Adil and I sold real estate side by side, and I've always been impressed by his openness to share and collaborate and really follow the vision that we go further together. And I appreciate all the work that we've been able to do since we've been growing our relationship over the last 6 months. So Adil's going to say a few words about Laidler Academy, and we'll welcome up Manny, one of the top leading realtors in Burnaby, helping the duplex builders move into multiplex and developers like myself acquire great development sites. Let's give Adil and Danny a round of applause.
Thank you, Bill. I want to thank and congratulate Bill and his entire team for putting together this incredible event. It looks like another sold-out venue. I think most importantly, though, it's about filling a room of like-minded professionals that are committed to solving the housing crisis that we have through the missing middle segment of the market. I remember in 2019, Bill alluded to, Bill and I worked alongside one another in Coquitlam. Coquitlam introduced a multiplex housing choices program that Bill and I were very active in helping our clients acquire sites. It was very interesting. If it wasn't me at the table securing the site, it was Bill at the table securing the site. And we shared a lot of best practices together. And it's been a great segue into what we're doing together here as a room and as a team and building the relationship. I think that we're going through a pretty amazing time in our industry. Whether you're an agent, brokering deals, whether you are a builder, developer, an architect, a supported professional in the industry, this is the single most significant land use reform, I want to say, in our lifetime or in the history of BC. So to have a room like this with like-minded folks coming together and collaborating is very special. I was fortunate to be part of the first multiplex program in July of this summer. And I remember being on my first call, inquiry call with Bill. And I was like, yeah, Bill, the tuition fee seems a little bit high. But I learned 3 things from being in the program. The first one is the tuition or the course fee is an incredible vetting mechanism for allowing you to enter a room with incredibly high caliber individuals. I walked into that room immediately, people were there to learn, to grow, to collaborate and share. Very hard to find that. Number 2, in the 16 weeks since the program, we've helped clients acquire 15 sites, and Mayor Hurley, they're mostly in Burnaby. So the Burnaby program is fantastic. So we've had a 10x return on our investment with Laidler. And my business partner, Ferris, has also taken the program. We were so impressed with it. And lastly, I've been doing this license for almost 20 years. And in my 20 years, there's never been a platform like this, where like-minded industry folks in the development business can come together, where the mayor's, leading the way and sending a very clear signal that we're here to solve the housing crisis through Bill 44. Bill 44 will reshape our neighborhoods. It will add the much-needed gentle density, and it will add a lot of vibrancy to our communities. So I'm very excited about the future of the program. It's still young, it's still new, everyone's learning, and I think that's what this venue is for. To conclude, I'm really excited for the rest of the event. I've learned through going to various events with Bill, with Laidler, and just through my journey in the industry, that the new currency for growth is incredible relationships. And I think if you haven't already, introduce yourself to the person sitting to your right or to your left, at some point today you should do that, because we are going to grow together through meaningful conversations and through incredible connections. And I hope to meet all of you or connect with you at some point at the networking event this afternoon. I want to thank Bill and I want to thank everyone for being here today. And I'm going to introduce or ask Manny to come to the stage. Manny's going to be presenting a project that Bill and his team have just acquired in South Burnaby. It's a very unique FTN project that's going to go through subdivision. I'll let Manny go through the details. Thank you.
Thanks, Adil. Appreciate that. Wow, how cool is this, everyone? I'm blown away. Real quick, I'll touch on Bill's program as well. I'll echo what Adil said. I live in Burnaby. I do primarily my business in Burnaby, Vancouver, primarily with single-family duplex developers, anywhere from guys who are doing 1 to 2 projects a year. Some of my guys are doing anywhere from 15 to projects, managing 15 to 20 project sites a year. And so I thought I was pretty up to speed as to the bylaws and what we can do in Burnaby and Vancouver. Spoke with Bill. Bill encouraged I take the program. I'm a big believer in personal development. So I said, Bill, if you can just add 1% value to me that I can in return add that value back to my clients, I'm in. Similarly, he's 10x that return for me. So if anybody is interested to learn more about the Multiplex program, highly recommend you guys get in touch with Bill after the fact. 6339 Dufferin. This is a special site. It's a 15,000 square foot site in South Burnaby. It's nostalgic for me because I grew up 3 blocks away. My parents still live 3 blocks away. And so it's super special. It's also just minutes away from Metrotown. You're a 5-minute drive to Metrotown, 5-minute drive to BCIT, not far from SFU, the highway, all types of elementary, high school, shops, restaurants. So it's a fantastic location. And it's an opportunity to take a site that at one point you can only do 2 dwellings on. And since it's zoned into the FTN, we can do 6+. So that's the site there. It does allow for 6 units under the Bill 44 bylaw changes. And this is where the magic is that we're going to get into here. What Bill and I are working on doing is taking this 100 by 150 site and subdividing it into 2 parcels. By subdividing it into 2 parcels, each parcel then can have 6 units developed upon it. So we're taking a site that at one point only could do 2, we could do 6 today, but we're going to create 12 townhouse homes at this site. And these are going to be very functional, livable units. On average, they're going to be about 1,850 square feet. And the magic of the site is actually the center drive aisle that we're going to be dedicating to the site. So there's going to be a 20-foot drive aisle down the center of it. To create that, each unit needs to give 10 feet dedication, cross-access easements to that drive aisle. There's an access off the rear lane. And what we're going to create is 625 square foot floor plates. The bottom level will be garage plus living, then second and third levels of living as well, with a 10-foot backyard. So super exciting. And I will touch on this. I do a lot of duplex dwellings. And the reason for that is because a number of our builders are no longer doing the single family homes. Why? The $3 million price point for single family homes is out of reach for many people. And even now with the bylaw changes in Burnaby prior to Bill 44, the duplexes were getting larger in size, anywhere from 2,500 to 3,000 square feet. And we're talking north of $2 million for that price point. So there is a demand. And if there's one takeaway for you guys, there is a demand for sub $2 million product in Burnaby, especially. It is the missing middle. So we're looking to create units that are 15 to 1,900 square feet and look to bring them to market sub 2 million. So these will be 1,850 square foot units with access to garage and back lane. Let's look at the numbers. The purchase price on this site is just under $4 million. Hard cost, soft cost financing, total cost just under 14. Keep in mind, you need to factor in, as the mayor talked about, DCCs. That's included in here. Offsites. Make sure you don't forget about your offsites. Make sure you're calculating what your offsites might be, for especially for larger development sites like this. Total project cost, we're looking at just under 14 million. To make this project feasible, we're looking for an 18% return on cost for financing. To achieve that, we need to have required revenue of just under $17 million. This is what excites me the most. Net square foot of these units are going to be less the garage saleable, about 1,650 square feet, let's call them. We're looking to bring them to market at just possibly under 1.4 million to make the project feasible. I'm ready to sign up for that myself today. So to bring an 1,850 square foot unit to market at, let's call it 1.5 million, is a product that we feel very confident in. We are going to start pre-sales next spring. So if anyone is interested, would like to register, reach out to me or Bill after the fact. And yeah, this is the project. We're super excited about it. So in summary, a 15,000 square foot parcel, prime location. We're going to create, the key is the center 20-foot drive aisle, and we're going to create 12 units out of that. Thank you, everyone. Now I have the absolute pleasure and privilege to introduce the man, the myth, the legend, the reason why we're all here today, Mr. Bill Laidler. Round of applause.
I have to thank Manny. Manny was one of the persistent agents. I actually passed on this site the first time I looked at it, and Manny brought it back to me multiple times and helped me see the vision of what we could do across the street from this park and really bringing that attainable price point under $1.5 million, which is where the pro formas have the most amount of confidence. As mentioned, Laidler Capital will be launching in 2025, and if you hadn't have an opportunity yet, scan this QR code to download the Small Builders project overviews and pro formas. Before we start with Lightwell Developments, we're going to talk about the benefits and the risks of real estate development. This is a standard pro forma that we're following for Burnaby that shows the required revenue for feasibility to be in that $8 to $8.5 million range. To budget for a $2 to $2.2 million land acquisition price, $300 approximately for hard costs, soft costs of approximately $1 million per project, and a financing budget of $500,000, we need to see a minimum of $8.5 to $8.7 million in revenue for a bank to finance these projects. Now, the biggest risk in these pro formas is understanding the revenue side. This is a new product, and are we going to be able to achieve the revenue pro forma, or will the increased supply of new product coming, especially in Vancouver and Burnaby, will that cause prices to deflate and put the revenues at risk? The second major risk of the real estate development is controlling and budgeting the hard costs. And this is one of the biggest benefits of the pre-zoning, because typically when we were building multifamily development projects, 6-story condo buildings, we would be projecting hard costs today and what the current market was to build today without getting into construction for 3 to 4 years into the future. It was very difficult to project that far ahead to know what our cost base was. And the pre-zoning allowing us to go directly to building permit creates more confidence within the pro formas and a stronger ability for the developers to predict what the cost will be and can move forward on more projects. This is an example of Lightwell's 6-unit development in Vancouver. In Vancouver, you don't have the added benefit of internal drive aisles like Burnaby provides. And that's a main challenge for the multiplexes in Vancouver because it pushes all of the parking to the back lane and for open parking pads. We see one of the biggest benefits in Burnaby being the middle drive aisle, the ability to give every unit a dedicated single car garage, because we just, at least myself coming from Port Moody in the suburbs, don't believe homeownership is at a place today where a family can move into a townhome without a vehicle. If you ask my wife, if she could live without her car and our 2 kids, it'd be very challenging to convince her to buy 1.5, a $2 million new home with no dedicated parking. So thank you to Burnaby for allowing those internal driveways. It really creates a much more livable site plan and design option. But the Vancouver developers and the Vancouver public are much well served with public transit and amenities close to the homes that they're moving into. And as you can see here, we have a 6-unit stacked, 2 garden level single level cottages on the ground floor, 2 level townhomes above, and 2 units off the back lane. As Manny outlined, this is Laidler Development's target development style, where we can put those middle drive aisles in and provide at least a single car garage or a double car garage for each dwelling unit. We feel like these price points under $1.5 million for a 3-bedroom townhome with a garage and a private backyard will be well received in the marketplace and will be a really step forward for new housing options where residents would previously either have a condo or a duplex without much in between. In Vancouver, there's been 220 applications since the multiplex zone was adopted in September of 2023. This will be approximately 1,100 new units coming to the market in 2025. We've seen the average prices in Burnaby increase over the last 12 months, where the average price point this time last year for a detached home was $1.9 million. It grew to a peak in September of 2024, just below $2.4 million. And the average is tempered off here, hovering in that $2.1 to $2.2 million range for detached homes. This is all age categories. So this is the average detached home price point, and is really why we're reinforcing what Manny said. Bringing the new product to market under $2 million is where we can see the viable business plans where we're not competing against new duplexes and not competing against the average detached home. And this is my encouragement to Mayor and Council and the City of Burnaby and any other city that's watching today. The impact of allowing for 6-unit developments is the real opportunity to create the affordable price points. For the properties that are limited to 4 units, to achieve that minimum required revenue to cover all of the costs, we would need to sell each of those units for close to $2 million. A 6-unit development will achieve that same revenue at $1.3 million. But if we're looking to bring more units at a lower price point, allowing us to go from 4 units to 6 units is really the key. And especially in Burnaby, where many of the lots can be subdivided. If you take an 8,000 or 9,000 square foot lot, under the zoning bylaw, they can be subdivided down to 2, 4, or 5,000 square foot lots. A 9,000 square foot lot currently can achieve 8 units through the subdivision process. If we bypass the subdivision process and provided 6 units outright, it would reduce the time spent subdividing properties on the staff level. It would reduce the holding costs for developers, and it would create more opportunities for home ownership to be purely in the strata rather than having to work through shared drive aisles with dedicated rights of ways and 2 separate properties trying to act as one. As an example, for a 4-unit development, this is 7609 Caldecott. Well, Tony Singh had the unfortunate or fortunate opportunity to sell me this property. And I was wavering back and forth. I extended the subject removal a few times, trying to decide whether we were going to take this site. And on the night that it was subject removal, I still was undecided, and I told her we were going to pass. Still wasn't that comfortable with having to sell the homes close to that $2 million price point. But as a good realtor, and as Tony does, she jumped on the phone with me, found a way to get me into it, ended up removing conditions, paying the deposit, and now we're out to the races to see if that price point is really going to succeed. Ultimately, I'm happy with the decision. It's important that we continue to bring the first projects to market, even if they're not as profitable as we'd like to see. At least we're understanding what the opportunity is, and we can adjust for future business plans. This is a detached home that Silverleaf Homes built in Port Moody years ago, and it will be the model for the 4 detached homes on that property. They'll be freestanding, approximately 2,000 square feet each, which is where we get to the real benefits of pre-zoning. The real benefits of pre-zoning is in the reduced timelines. Mayor Hurley talks about the increased city fees, and I'm sure the developers here would all agree. We are happier to pay the increased city fees in Burnaby with the reduced approval timelines than paying lower fees in another city and having to go through 2 or 3 years worth of rezoning back and forth with staff and uncertainty. One of the biggest line items in our pro formas are the interest expenses. And if we can reduce the timelines, we can reallocate that interest cost to more city benefits, to more city infrastructure, and to higher quality homes. It's the timelines that's the biggest challenge in bringing this product to market. When you compare small scale multi-unit housing, the pre-zoning, again, here's a sample pro forma where the profit margin of $1.2 million or 16% return on cost is required for financing. When you get a construction loan of 75% of total cost, the bank will lend $5.6 million, meaning as a developer, we're putting in $1.8 to $1.9 million to finance this project. That's a 65% return on equity. And what we saw in the multifamily development space for the 6 stories of the townhomes with rezoning, if you take that 65% return on equity and blend it out over 5 years, you're down to 11% annual return. This is why developers like myself are moving away from the larger projects, because the return's so minimal on a year-to-year basis. With that same 16% return on cost, with pre-zoning and reducing that timeline to 2.5 years, the annual return on equity jumps to over 20%. In this example, 26%. It's the exact same metrics, the exact same cost base, but because the time significantly reduced, the annual returns increase, which will allow for more community members to invest into real estate development, and we'll be able to bring more product to the market. A few warnings on how to select the right real estate development investment. There's 6 criteria if I was investing into a real estate developer or a real estate development project. The first being their track record of past successes, exploring how much debt the general partners are carrying, how many projects have they signed personal guarantees to, because if one of their other projects goes south and the bank calls that loan, the rest of their indemnities can be called as well. Understanding where they are in the city process and what milestones they've achieved. Looking to consider, have they got fixed price firm tenders in place for their hard cost budget? What type of construction loan they've accepted, if it's fixed interest fees, when the renewals are, and what leverage it's at. A pre-sale to confirm revenues, calculating the remaining timeline for the investment, and then also understanding if I'm investing into a development project, what happens if the costs increase? Are those cash calls going to come to the developer? Are going to be covered by the developer? Or are they going to be coming to the investors to bring additional equity into the project? Many developers are starting to take on the responsibility. If there's cash calls, they will cover those cash calls and take it out of their own profit splits to provide more confidence to the investors. I learned this the hard way. At 28 years old, I signed on to a $20 million construction loan with minimal experience, 90% loan to cost and 11% interest rate. What was meant to be a $10 million profit quickly evaporated and ended up barely getting our money out after 7 years. And that was okay for me because I had multiple projects on the go. But unfortunately, my brother, who was an Army veteran and came back from Afghanistan, invested his life savings into that project. He sold his condo and believed in me. He got majority of the equity back, but the problem was it was 5 years after he invested. And from that time in 2016 to 2020, the market ran and pushed his buying power out of the marketplace. And that's one of the reasons why we're launching Laidler Capital's Diversified Investment Fund. because if you're all in on one project and it goes south, it can be a major challenge to the investor. And we're going to spread the investments out between 5 to 8 projects so that there's a higher level of certainty in your investment. Turning over to Carl Isaak. Carl Isaak is the Director of Planning at the City of Burnaby, and Carl's going to walk us through some of the new housekeeping legislation that the city is working on. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you, Bill, and appreciate this wonderful venue to speak at. I did also have the opportunity, and thanks again for speaking at the SFU event in July, where I went over in detail what the city's R1 zoning was. And what I'm here to share is updates to that. So I did mention that we'd be making improvements, housekeeping amendments as we introduced a very revolutionary change to our zoning bylaw, and we'd be continually looking to improve that. I'm with the city's Neighborhood Planning and Urban Design Division, which is working on the overall zoning bylaw rewrite, looking to bring the similar clarity and efficiency in our zoning bylaw to other aspects, not just single small-scale multi-unit. In terms of market demand for small-scale multi-unit homes. As the mayor mentioned, we had initiated changes to our zoning bylaw even prior to the provincial legislation. So allowing laneway homes was new to us from between April 2023 and when the R1 zoning came in, we've issued over 120 building permits for laneway homes. And when we switched to the R1 small-scale multi-unit, since then we've had over 80 applications for building permits, as well as 115 precursor application with our engineering department. Several of those are ready to be issued and in process of construction. Anecdotally, what we're seeing primarily is 2 duplexes, so 4 units on sites as the main type of development under the R1 zoning. And I will go over just kind of at a high level for those who weren't here in July, what our R1 zone did. It did take 12 different zones. On the left, you can see a very black and white text-based form of zoning bylaw, and we converted that to a single small-scale multi-unit housing district zone with tables, diagrams, simplified approaches to allow for greater flexibility in how builders can deliver housing in our community. We think it's done a great job of making it more streamlined and easier to use for folks to navigate the regulations. The small-scale multi-unit housing zone, and I'll be focusing primarily on non-subdivision scenarios here. Those tend to be very site-specific and may depend on other servicing factors and things. So just looking at the slide from left to right, there's a variety of forms that you can construct. You don't have to do multiple units within a building. You are able to still continue to do a detached home if that's what your client or what the market demands, or you can take a single building and as we previously had secondary suites, now you can add multiple units, no longer secondary suites, but you can have plexes. And they can be oriented to the front of the lot. They can be on the side. You can have 2 duplexes as I'm going left to right here. You can have 3 buildings. You can have 4 cottage court buildings, as I think Bill was showing for the Coldicott example. And then on the far right side of the screen, we also have provisions where you can have a fee simple, so non-stratified multi-unit building where you subdivide and it's a row house format. And that may even include an accessory dwelling unit at the rear of the lot. And visually, what this can look like, some similar housing types that you can see in the R1 district. The top 2 images show a group of 5 plexes on Adanac Street in Vancouver. They're built on what would be a fairly standard 6,000 square foot lot in Burnaby. All of the units have entrances at ground level, and there's parking provided at the rear of the lot. They each have some dedicated outdoor space in the form of rooftop and ground level patios. The bottom left image shows a 6-plex on West 12th Street, which in this case is all rental units and has a form quite similar to a single-family home. The bottom center image shows a cottage cluster, which in this example, 2 standard lots were consolidated with 9 dwelling units built between them. Under the new regulations in Burnaby, you could build something similar to this, but not to quite the same unit intensity, since we'd require larger setback areas between the front and the rear buildings so that you'd have a larger courtyard area. And the last example in the bottom right is similar to what you could see in row housing. This example is at the corner of 33rd and Canby. In this case, one larger lot was subdivided to create 3 fee simple lots with a party wall and a primary row house dwelling and laneway home on each of those. But on to the changes that we've made. These were recently adopted at the council meeting at the beginning of November, introduced in September. We've brought in a few housekeeping amendments, and again, left to right, we have more flexibility for lot coverage. So we are no longer including in lot coverage portions of a deck that are within 1.2 meters of the building envelope, which is similar to what the allowance is for eaves now as well. And this might be a minor point, but it does allow for increased living space on a lot and makes for a more viable form of construction. The projections, second from the left, again, allowing for that 1.2 meters of eaves into a setback, and accessibility ramps as well permitted in all yards. As another main priority for the city is climate action. We want to ensure that people can have the most efficient heating and cooling equipment. So heat pumps siting has been a challenge prior to this amendment. So we're offering more flexibility for where those outdoor appliances such as heat pumps can be located on a site inside yards or between buildings. There's been some clarifying points around height. So there's technical methods of measuring height where we have a sunken patio and some detail provided there, as well as clarifying measuring the midpoint of a roof and updates in form to the building height diagram. Other cleanup activities include removing references to an old R6 district, and then some R1 district references for gross floor area exclusions. We no longer use gross floor area in our zoning bylaw, but they do apply to multifamily areas, so just some fixes there. And lastly, another major policy direction, we have a childcare action plan in Burnaby, and so that is implemented not just by having the city build childcare, although we are doing that and that's part of the activities, but also enabling childcares to be built in more settings. So on a R1 lot, as part of these amendments, you don't necessarily have to build a dwelling or use the dwelling if it's existing for residential purposes. You're now permitted to have up to a 25 space childcare on any R1 district lot on a corner site. It's also permitted if it's not on a corner site within a dwelling, you can have a home-based childcare. Sorry, that's on the commercial childcare is your second column from the left. On the left side, within a dwelling unit, you're now allowed to have not just a childcare in the primary dwelling, but also in a secondary suite. Up to 2 units on a lot can have childcare up to, I believe it's 8 child spaces for that. To make this more viable, we've also reduced the parking and loading requirements, eliminated loading for childcare use, as well as reduced the number of parking spaces from 1 per 46 square meters to 1 per 55. We've also enabled childcare not just in the R1 zone, but also in some of the mixed employment areas which hadn't previously been allowed to have childcare. So I know this is a small-scale multi-unit housing event here, but just another form of development that might be of interest to you and is something that we all know there's a shortage of and want more of in our community.
Do you have any questions for Carl Isaac, City of Burnaby?
Bill, what are VP timelines looking like? And how many applications do you guys have?
Yeah, sure. The question was, how many building permits do we have in the pipeline right now and what are timelines like? For the number of applications, we're standing around 80 applications in the R1 zone. So that's including all forms of, it could be an additional laneway house on a lot that already has an existing dwelling, or it could be a complete redevelopment up to a 6-plex. So more than 80 units of housing being created under that, but 80 applications and about 115, 120 pre-application that goes through engineering. So those then are converted to building permit once they're through that process. In terms of timelines for the permit applications, it all depends on the responsiveness of the consultant. There are now requirements where you have 4 units or more to do frontage improvements on a lot. So that is something that involves maybe a professional that not all builders are familiar with using, bringing in a civil consultant. So that is something, if you haven't done before, make sure that it's on your radar to do, so that you're able to, once you hear what your scope of work in terms of completing sidewalks and street trees in front of your property, you're able to have that civil on hand to complete the design. Are we allowing single stair structures? At this time, we're not supportive of those. It is something that we're reviewing. But at this time, we're not seeing those as a viable given kind of current status. It is something that will be an ongoing review, though.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Doug.
You say 180 pre-applications?
120 pre-apps. Yeah.
To clarify, that's 120 pre-applications through the engineering department. Thank you. Great work. Appreciate it. I think we have to all give the city of Burnaby some grace. They really stepped forward and are the leaders in implementing flexible designs. And I'm sure there's an initial period here where it's a learning experience, but 3 months to 6 months plus, depending on what the requirements are. With the pleasure to introduce James Livingstone next. James is one of the partners of Lightwell Developments. James is another one of these industry professionals who has been extremely gracious with his time, has spent a lot of time with the Laidler Academy and the Multiplex Intensive. James comes from a background of venture capital, and in the past 10 years, he's raised over $700 million to acquire companies. This includes $300 million from pension funds, $100 million from broker dealers, and $300 million directly from high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals. In the last 6 months, Lightwell's acquired 11 multiplex projects and has raised over $10 million from retail investors to build these homes. I'd like to give a warm welcome to James Livingstone.
As a developer, the number one rule is develop where the cities want you. So, and in the whole Lower Mainland, it's Vancouver and Burnaby, in case you're wondering why we're not talking about other municipalities. My partners and I, we formed Lightwell to solve a problem. And in Vancouver, that's where we're from, that's where we started. It was before Burnaby had launched their program. The problem is pricing. So if imagine you're a family, you want to raise children, you don't want to live in a condo, a new small home, it will be $4 million to $6 million, a half duplex between $2.5 and $3 million, and there's GST on top of that. So at 100,000 plus. And west of Oak, there's no other option. It's all single family home zoning. The townhome zoning in Cambie corridors between Oak and Cambie. If you've been out there, you'll know what I'm talking about. So ultimately, there's just not enough housing choice. And that's really what we've responded to. We signed up our 12th property today. And it might sound like a lot, but put it in context. If our average development is 5 homes between 4, 5, and 6 units, that's equivalent to 1 townhome development in Coquitlam. So it's not as if we're swamping the market with housing. So we intend to continue to launch 1 to 2 projects per month. For us, where we see the real benefit is on the pricing side. So the half duplex at $2.5 million, they're not perfect. There's a basement. The first 2 levels are good. You have full height living. The 3rd floor, however, often on a front back duplex, you have the slope of the roof impeding movement in that top floor. Whereas with multiplex, the way Vancouver's done it, it's slab on grade. Our ceiling height is 10 feet on the first floor, and then it's 9 or 10 on the second, then 9 feet on the third. So beautiful homes. The other advantage is no zoning, which I think you all know. When we compare that to townhomes, we looked at townhome development in Vancouver, and it's impossible. It's a long zoning time, permitting time, and then an underground garage makes it financially untenable. So when we look at where multiplex fits, we're highly comfortable with being able to sell these. There's a precursor to multiplex in Vancouver called character restoration, and it involved renovating and restoring an old home, pre-1940 character home, moving the home to the front and building infill housing. And so we've had those for a long time, and they've sold well up to now. So we know the market will buy it, and really where Multiplex fits, it's bigger now than townhomes, on quieter streets. It's not on Oak Street. It's not on Cambie. And the advantage is it's in every neighborhood. It's in Kitsilano, West Point Grey, Dunbar, Kerrisdale, Shaughnessy, anywhere families want to live. The big issue for us is how do we manage risk? Bill talked about risk, and there's a number of different risks. The first is that duration risk Bill was mentioning, where the shorter you're invested, the higher the return. That's what we love about this. How we manage that is often when we're buying the homes, and we'll show you Fund 3, a video shortly, but the return looks really high, and it is a high return, but it's because the investors are invested for less than 2 years. If they were invested for 4 years, the return would be a lot less. So often with a lot of our properties, we don't purchase them until we have permits. So we're able to get really good extended terms, not on all of them, but on the majority of our properties, we'll have 12-month closings. So we save 200 to 300,000 of interest, and then the added benefit of we don't need most of the capital. We still need some capital, which you'll see, in Fund 3. The other risk is on costs. You'll meet my partner, one of my partners, Randy Cheng, and he's our specialist in developing and construction. So it's really about the teams you build. So if you're ever looking at investing in Multiplex, whether it's with us or another developer, really pay attention to people. That's probably the biggest lesson I've learned, is it's all about people. And real estate development is no different. So the next thing that we'll show you is a short video on Fund 3. So Peter Polikoff and Aman Krana, who I met through the Laidler Intensive, I spoke at some of those. They're going to narrate the video. So thanks very much, Bill, for the opportunity, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.
It's impressive watching James navigate the process and bring the right partners on board, and we're looking forward to Lightwell's success.
Lightwell Developments is a Vancouver-based developer pioneering multiplex family homes. Funds 1 and 2 are well underway, creating housing options in Vancouver neighborhoods previously unaffordable for young families. Fund 3 is available for investment with a 39% projected annual returns for a 2-year investment period. My name is Peter Polikoff, and I've always had an interest in development. Being a builder by trade and now an investor with Lightwell, I can actively be part of a development company. James Livingstone and Randy Cheng, both managing partners at Lightwell Developments, have taken the time to guide me through the stages of their multiplex developments, as well as educate me in investment opportunities as a limited or general partner. I opted to be a limited partner on multiple projects. And as I gain more experience, I plan to take on an even more active role as a general partner on future projects. I've had the opportunity to tour Lightwell's past duplex projects, and as a builder by trade, I was happy to see the quality, detail, and workmanship that went into those completed homes.
My name is Aman Khurana at Oakwyn Realty. Lightwell is currently welcoming accredited investors for their Limited Partnership Fund 3. The first property, located in Cambie Village, sits on over 6,300 square feet of land. The main building will consist of 4 3-bedroom and den homes at 1,362 square feet each. The second property, located in Oak Ridge, sits on over 8,200 square feet of land that will provide 6 units in total over 3 buildings. The front-back duplex units will consist of 4 3-bedroom and den homes with private backyards, totaling 1,521 square feet each. The development will be viable for bank financing with a minimum revenue of $1.68 million. This includes budgets to cover the costs for land value of $7 million, hard costs of $4.7 million, soft costs of $1.65 million, financing costs of $1.85 million, and a minimum project margin of 15%.
Thank you, Peter and Aman. We're now going to have the opportunity to bring up our first builder showcase. This is Randy Cheng of the Lightwell team. Randy has over 20 years of experience completing an impressive track record of residential and commercial projects. This includes custom homes with basement suites and laneways in Vancouver. And over the past 5 years, Randy has been specializing in building duplexes in Vancouver. This includes a duplex that was listed on Dumfries in Vancouver in February of this year. And with over 180 new duplexes available for sale, James Livingstone was sharing with me that he was concerned about the saleability and how long it was going to take for this product to be absorbed. Because of the quality that Randy invested and the design of that duplex it sold in 5 days, $75,000 over asking price. And realtors who have been part of the Multiplex Intensive have credited the floor plans and the high quality finishings as the reason for the increased demand. The quality of Randy's duplex stood above and beyond the other homes in the marketplace, and he's transitioning this level of quality into multiplex development within Lightwell. Please welcome to the stage, Randy Cheng. Continually impressed with the level of knowledge that you have. And one of the biggest benefits we see of Lightwell being 11 projects in is you're really learning about what the city's looking for and nailing the approval process. So being a duplex builder, tell us why multiplex and why multiplex now in Vancouver?
I think there's a couple different things. Like, as a developer, we're always looking for predictability, right? And so when duplexes first came out, you know that you can have a certain amount of FSR and there's a certain time frame when you can expect to get a permit out. When multiplexes came out, now we're getting maximum efficiency. You're getting one FSR on the property, which really makes it efficient on land. And the news was that the timing of the permits were going to be similar to a duplex, which is 7 months, let's say, in Vancouver. They're targeting in and around that time now. So anywhere from 7 to 10 months, which is great. Gives us predictability in terms of timing. And everyone knows as a developer, if you can't predict those timing, you're starting to burn interest rate. So
what's something that you're implementing into your building permit applications or development permit applications now that you weren't aware of when you made your first application?
I think it's about putting together the right team at the very get-go. When these first came out, we were advised that you had to use an architect if you had 4 units or more. And ultimately what we found out was it wasn't 4 units or more, it was actually 4 units or more in one building that you needed an architect. And then so what we did is we transitioned from, engaging architects from the get-go to now starting to use our typical home designers that we would have used for past projects.
What are the differences between an architect and a home designer?
I think it's a level of accountability, right? So as a registered architect, you're responsible and your level of assurance is a lot higher. You're responsible for the entire project versus if it was just a home designer, you're just drawing the plan and here you go do your thing, right?
What about in terms of costs and timelines for delivering the deliverables?
Yeah, so there's definitely a difference between an architect and a home designer or a home drafter. Costs can vary quite significantly. So I think it depends on the type of developer as well. If you're a more seasoned developer, maybe you don't need the guidance of an architect, but if it maybe is your first project, you'd want to consult an architect, has that experience, would provide that level of guidance and assurance over the project. I think that's probably something that would be beneficial for new developers.
Definitely. We've gone out to a number of groups and we've seen the architecture proposals for small scale multi-unit housing being in the $100,000 range, and designers being around $20,000. In relation to the differences between multiplex and townhome, what do builders who are transitioning from single family construction need to know about building multiplexes?
So when you're building a single family home, it's one dwelling. When you get into multiple dwellings, whether it's a duplex or 3 or 4 or 6plex, you're going to be incorporating a lot more fire separations. 1 hour ratings between separate dwellings. You're going to have to deal with maybe fire alarm work, that increased sprinkler work. All of that is going to be an additional cost and additional consultants that maybe you wouldn't have in a traditional single family build.
How reliable are the hard cost budgets of $320 per square foot?
I think it depends on, I think that's a good range. It really depends on the types of consultants you're bringing in and the types of relationships you have with your vendors. If you're a type of developer that is led by a consultant team and you're following the guidance of that consultant team, you could potentially be led down the wrong path. And when that costing comes out, it's hard to be able to build it. If you're a more involved developer, I would say that, understand the cost, understand what's going into the drawings before it actually gets to the building permit stage or the tendering stage. And then you realize that you can't feasibly build what was on paper. And I think cost-wise, if you're creative and you're involved, it's a manageable number to be having.
Good, because as we all know, and many of the contractors that we meet with, there's a wide variety in pricing, all the way up to $500, $600, plus per square foot for custom family homes, and multiplex is not feasible. Peter Polikanoff is one of our multiplex intensive students, and he came into the multiplex intensive with the intention to purchase his own multiplex site and construct it as a progress in his career from the trades into development. When he had the opportunity to meet yourself, he decided to invest his money with Lightwell instead of running of his own project. What does it mean to you to have these types of established trades investing with you at Lightwell, which also includes many of the trades that you're using to build on site?
Yeah, I look at that as it's a compliment, and it's a flattering thing that you have when you meet people who want to invest in you or in the business that we're providing. We've been fortunate enough that we've had a multiple of sub-trades or our builder partners that are investing with us. And most recently, we had one of our clients who purchased the home invest with us, which I think really is a testament to that level of quality that we're trying to achieve, and also making sure that we're standing by what we say we're going to do, and people are starting to see that. It was very humbling when the actual vendors and trades came to me and said, "We want to invest with you. We see what you guys are doing, and we want to be a part of it," which is great.
Did I hear correctly that you have a pre-sale home buyer who bought a unit and then gave you additional money to participate in the profit?
So we had one of the buyers who purchased one of our properties. They love the love the home that they bought, and they're investing with us now.
Great. What a great story.
Which is great.
And that speaks directly to Alvin's business model. And Alvin will be here this afternoon talking about how he's looking to incorporate home buyers into the development process to save them costs on housing. James interviewed over 30 builders when he was setting up Lightwell. From everything I experienced from you, he made a great selection. We have a moment to take one or potentially two questions from the crowd. This is an opportunity to learn from Randy Cheng with Lightwell Developments. Please raise your hand if you have a question about Vancouver multiplex process. What's the projected cost price per square foot for a multiplex project that's 5 units?
Yeah, I think we touched about it. I mean, I think if you use that $300 per square foot number is a good benchmark. Although everybody builds in different level of quality, or they have different trade relationships and whatnot, but I think that's a very good number to use as a benchmark.
What is the minimum investment for a Lightwell?
Yeah, so for us, it's a minimum $100,000 investment, and the investors do need to be accredited. Other than that, or if it's close family and friends or business associates, there's exemptions there. But you do have to be an accredited investor.
Take one more. But can you talk about how to set up stratas for multiplex?
Yeah, so as a developer, we're responsible for setting up the initial strata. So when you have, typically when you build a duplex, you can have a self-managed strata. When you have 5 units or more, we have to do a proper strata, and then as the developer, we're responsible for setting that all up.
To close this off, the opportunity that Lightwell has in the marketplace in Fund 3 are projecting a 39% annual return for a 2-year investment cycle. The investment of $100,000 will return $140,000 in 2 years, as long as Randy and the team can execute, which we have our full faith in them, and we wish them the best as they go through this journey. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
As the second builder in our showcase, we have Costar Construction. Louis and his brother Tuan were the Georgie Award winners for 2024 for Best Multiplex in Vancouver. I've had the great fortune of working with Louis in the Multiplex Intensive over the last 2 months. Their company has always proven themselves to be design-oriented, always looking at the best livable floor plans and what their company can do to increase the quality of life for home ownership here in Vancouver. Welcome to the introductory video for Costar.
Gary Paul here with Sun Hills Coast Realty. It's my pleasure to introduce Costar Construction and present their latest development opportunity at 6515 Ellie Street in Vancouver with the private elevators and nanny suites. Louis and his team have been developing properties in Vancouver for over 10 years. He began his career at Port Capital Developments and Trillium Construction Management from 2013 to 2015, before founding Costar Construction with his brother Tuan, Director of Construction. Tuan launched T Properties in 2010 and founded Costar Construction in 2019, bringing a wealth of experience in project management and construction. Saeed, Chief Designer. As Costar's in-house designer, Saeed plays a key role in ensuring that every project has practical, spacious, and modern floor plans that meet the highest standards. The most recent duplex project earned a Georgie Award for Best Multiplex Construction in 2024. This achievement was made possible through close collaboration with the designers and also a site supervisor with an architectural background, which contributed greatly to the on-site customization process. At Costar, they prioritize hiring team members with backgrounds in design, architecture, and construction to provide a competitive edge, high-quality results.
My name is Michael Lee with eXp Realty. The lot size is 5,565 square feet, 4 ground-oriented units, 4 bed and 4 full baths. They come with private elevators. To improve accessibility, ground level, there's a nanny or in-law suite, which is adaptable based on your personal circumstances. To summarize the opportunity with Costar, the development will be viable for bank financing with a minimal revenue of about 1.55 million per unit. This includes budgets to cover the cost for land value of approximately 2.2, hard costs at 1.8 mil, soft costs at 700,000, a financing estimate of 400,000, project margin 18%. After accounting for resale commissions, the traditional banks will see this project as viable with a minimum of $6 million in total revenue.
It seems like everything that your team does at Costar Construction is centered around the end user experience of living in your homes. Why is design such an important value for Costar?
When we put a lot of the team members and designer and consultant, great people in this journey with us, we tell them the family value, where our hearts lies. When a lot of people who genuinely care about how to create the home more kid-friendly, more be able to help taking care of all of the, the vulnerable, the adult, the elders. I think with that mindset, when people, all great people sit together, they would come up with a great design. And I think for that project that we was lucky to win the award, actually one of the things that I still remember until today was that actually when you actually step through the front gate of the home, and you can actually see that the light just light up on your path, and there was a little mini fountain was turned on. And then when you walk through the door, everything just turn on, the light turn on automatically. You walk through the front door, the light turn on, the stair light turn on, the hallway light turn on. So it's just that experience, just take, be able to see that and feel it. I can kind of see myself taking my kids and being with my family through the entire, from front to back of the unit without any interruptions, any extra step to turn on the switches. We can, carry our baggage of groceries, the car seat or whatever, and have a very smooth experience going through this living space. And I think that's one of the things that we did right for this project, and we are lucky to have a lot of people recognize that and give us the credit for it.
You shared a story with me about when you were in construction for that Georgia Award-winning project, that you'd be doing design revisions on site, and that it's a key part of your team on the construction side to have architectural or design experience. It's well known from developers that sometimes we clash with architects. How do you lean into this design-oriented construction while still maintaining your costs?
So for our project, we engage an architect and also an interior designer who worked with us since the beginning. And also, because of our staff and the site superintendent at that time, he has architectural background, so he was very early on realized there was a little bit something off with some structural posts in the home. And he said that it should not be there. So we was quickly during the framing stage, we will be able to, get approval from the architect, get a consultant to sign off structurally, and then we eliminate that structural post. Save a bit of cost, maybe, spend a bit of time on it, but in the end, it actually allowed the experience aesthetically, it improved the aesthetic of the home without any unnecessary posts and bulkhead and beams. And I think that experience, and I think we have a discussion with our team every step along the way where, do you feel right? Like, do you feel something off? If you notice something, just bring it up. Like, doesn't matter if, we already have a set design. Try to find a way to add value every step of the way. Even if you're on site, you coordinate the project. Just we have a very open and transparent team collaboration culture, and we speak our mind every step of the way. So I think that help us tremendously in building the team at the same time, execute the project in the right way. I hope.
Good. Well, I'm excited to see it on Elliott. You're going to be proposing 2 of your front units to have private elevators. Walk me through the decision-making process internally to add the elevators to design, and also comment on your expected cost to include those features.
So I think just rooted in the value I mentioned about family, about, and also very personal for me because in 2019, when my brother and I officially founded our construction arm, Costar, it was also the year that my son was born. So it was also business and personal for me to really see the project from the angle of parents, with a little kid, and also from parents with an older parents. My mom was from the baby boomer generations, and there's going to become a day where, you and I or, our parents would need a lot more assistance. And I think that's the thought process that my team had walking to it, where how can we make the design more adaptive? How can we have the home change with us, change with our lifestyle, and at a way where we don't have to incur a significant cost or hopefully not taking out a second mortgage, trying to adjust something later on when you need it most. So it's just the thought process, how we can put in a little bit more planning now and be able to make a tremendous flexibility for the future when come the day that those stairs become a hassle for us.
It's interesting concept. I'm really excited to see it come forward. For anyone who missed it, it's a 1-bedroom, self-contained nanny suite on the ground floor for an elderly parent with a private elevator in the unit to go up to the middle of the floor, living space, and 3 bedrooms on top for the family. For anyone in the crowd here today, you are a construction company. You're open to working with other developers, homeowners as the construction arm of their business. You're also open to homeowner joint ventures. And will you be opening up Costar to investors in 2025?
Yeah, actually, we are. I feel very blessed to be here with a lot of like-minded professionals, and I feel like this is the place where you can share and speak your mind every step of the way. And like Randy team, Lightwell, they open up the opportunity to investor. And I think for us, I think our team are in the place where we're willing to opening up, and at the same time willing to be vulnerable and let everybody know what we done right. What our challenges, what the risk is. We don't know what the futures hold, but I feel like we have a good number of early indicator of success where it's actually rooted in the people. Like if you be able to have a group of people who speak their mind, be able to project their experience, raising the families, raising a small kid, taking care of a loved one into every single project that we do. I think that is probably one of the very important early indicator of successful project.
It's great to have you here. Averra Homes, Vancouver's leading net zero home builder. Averra Homes built the first net zero home in Vancouver, has completed 11 net zero projects in the last number of years, and is going to be proposing a business model for a triplex with net zero construction.
Hi everyone, my name is Faris Kapani from Multiplex, and today we're going to present to you Averra Developments, specializing in net zero duplexes with laneway. Averra Developments has been building multiplexes in Vancouver through character retention for the past 15 years, specializing in Vancouver net zero multiplexes, which eliminates carbon emissions, heating and cooling costs for the homeowner, and adds 19% of bonus density to the development. This is all achieved by adding solar panels, additional insulation to retain heat, and other new home technologies. As you can see below, Gavin is the development manager and Guy is the construction manager, and together they contributed to the formation of Vancouver's R11 multiplex zoning as one of the select builders to participate in the City Developer Roundtable. They've built the first net zero duplex in the city, which was at 11 East 19th Avenue, and in total, they've delivered 10 net zero homes. Currently, they're working on 3 additional multiplexes across Vancouver. The opportunity here is that Averra is seeking 33-foot lots in Vancouver, ideally point grey. Homeowners, realtors, or investors who have a property that would like to joint venture or to sell to Averra. And note, the 19% bonus density ends in 2025.
Hi, I'm Nazir. I'm from Ivan Design. We specialize in designing multiplexes in Vancouver and Burnaby. So in this slide, we see a typical 32-foot lot, how we could maximize the floor area with net zero bonuses. So a standard 33 by 122 lot in Vancouver, there is a land area of 4,026 square feet. Apply the 19% net zero bonus, you could increase that. And that's an amazing feature which we could use in maximizing the floor plate. Front and back duplex, where there is a shared common wall. Unit facing north, the design is flipped so that you could capture the ocean views from the top. So the living, dining, main spaces are on top with an amazing deck, which looks out to the ocean and the mountains, and the bedrooms on level 1. So these are the possibilities that you can achieve when it comes to designing a duplex.
Thank you, Ferris. And Nazir. Nazir is one of the designers who's working on one of our projects, 2 of our projects in Burnaby, and he's been great to work with, Nazir Bawa. But let's welcome out to the stage Gavin McLeod. Gavin and his business partner, Guy Taylor, have been building multiplex type developments in Vancouver for the past 15 years. This includes character retention projects that revitalized the main house and added additional units on site. Averra is leading the net zero building in Vancouver with 10 completed projects, and it includes the bonus density of the 19% floor space ratio. Averra is one of the leading builders and developers within the Vancouver industry, and you were part of the roundtable when the city of Vancouver was developing their R1-1 zoning bylaw. What was it like in those early meetings?
They were pretty interesting. Is this on? Yep. They were pretty interesting as we got a sneak peek of where the city direction was going for multiplex. And there was a series of events where we could sit at roundtables with architects, designers, engineers, and city staff to really explore how this bylaw is going to take shape, what's most important to builders, to end users, and things like that.
What was the rationale and what was the discussion like regarding parking and eliminating the need to have on-site parking in the bylaw?
Yeah, there were 2 main, I guess you could call them issues or items that were hot button items at these roundtables. One was parking, and then the other one was related to hydro and how you're going to energize these multiple units as possible constraints. The city determined to get the density, they're fully prepared to not require off-street parking, essentially one stall instead. And the challenge was that as an end user, and as was mentioned in the previous discussions, parking is a very important part of family life at this point in time. And parking would be desirable for end users. And if you're selling it and not using it, a lot of realtors were coming to us and saying, we're going to be hamstrung at the end here if we don't have parking for these people buying these units. So we had to work through some different scenarios. And I think you'll see from the designs that are coming out, the parking's really being solved with this cantilevered approach at the lane, where you're going to have a deck or living space above parking spaces below at the width of the back of the lot in the lane.
Being a specialist within the net zero space, you work with BC Hydro. Talk to us about the city's new requirement to allow for natural gas heating and what impacts you see that having on multiplexes.
That's a good question, and obviously one that's on a lot of people's minds right now. So the planning department has been asked to basically present what is this going to look like bringing gas back. So that'll be very telling, and I believe that's when it'll either be approved. A lot of times council will require for some additional information, go back to the drawing board, work on some things, or they might just say, we like what you're presenting to us to bring gas back in for heating and hot water. Let's adopt it. I believe it's not going to be as simple as just allowing gas back in. I feel there will be some requirements to build in an energy efficient way so that when the home is emitting less carbon as a result of burning fossil fuels. So I don't think we're going to go back to the way it was, but people will have the option to bring gas in for heating and hot water. It'll just, and I think it's a good thing, increase the energy efficiency of the home as a result.
One of the factors that's leading to your business model to acquire 33-foot lots is to be building the front back duplex with a laneway and avoiding a PMT or an LPT requirement. Where is the threshold where a development would require LPT, PMT?
Yeah, that's a bit of a loaded question because it really is, it's so dependent on a site-by-site basis. But our understanding and through some of the experience of our duplexes, you are able to get a 400 amp, what's called a 400 amp airdrop. When that can be two 200 amp services, then you split out from there. It is dependent on the location of existing BC Hydro infrastructure, but we are very confident with with a proper sort of understanding of a site. And if you're able to build in an energy efficient way and to have load calcs at a level, we're very confident that the front back duplex and an infill will not require a PMT. And that's the way we're going to work toward and design toward.
The net zero bonus density of 19% on a 33-foot lot provides an additional 964 square feet of saleable area, ranging anywhere from $1,100 to $1,400 a square foot. This can add between $900,000 and $1.5 million of additional revenue to the project pro forma. What's the additional cost to building net zero?
It depends on the design. The beauty of net zero is it's not prescriptive as some other green building platforms, if you will. So you can design it in a way that can be cost effective. And the way we're building right now is essentially net zero ready. So we're at a point with our construction costs and the way that we're building net zero that the solar panels are close to being as much as what's required. Now, to go from code to net zero, you do have to increase insulation. You have to build to a way that has more air tightness, which costs money and takes time. And as well, the mechanical system has to be super efficient as well. So those costs can add on. At the end of the day, if you want to break it down to a square foot percentage, it's about $25 to $30 per square foot. So when you get the extra 19% square feet, it turns into a very attractive incentive.
And especially as you share for the 33-foot lots where that additional density will take you from a 1,300 square foot unit to a 1,500 square foot unit, that extra 200 square feet not only is extra density, but it really adds more flexibility in your design.
Yeah, that's correct. Our initial net zero duplexes we were finding, and we were building them for developer clients and ourselves, for the market on the shorter lots where they became attractive on 114 deep or 115 deep, where you would normally get a 1,300 square foot half duplex, you could now get that 1,500 square foot half duplex, which the market really seems to appreciate. So in this example, with a front back duplex and an infill, now that we can get one FSR plus the 19%, we're able to build, and it has to be done through obviously a design process that will work, but you can build a front back duplex and an infill that are all approximately 1,600 square feet, which means larger bedrooms, larger circulation areas, and feeling more like you're walking into a home.
Well, Averra, leading the way for net zero, has the established relationships with the trades. So the technical requirements of building net zero isn't a massive leap for Averra. If you're looking for a construction partner, either as a development partner or as an investment, what are your business plans for 2025 and how can the attendees here be involved with you?
Well, thanks. We see, we have 3 multiplex projects that are nearing, I'd say they're in the 7th and 8th inning of getting the building permits. So we're about to get started on those. Those are actually on larger lots, but our focus for 2025 is going to be identifying the projects to build on these 33-foot lots. We can build them predictably, and we can build them in a time frame that's predictable, a cost that's predictable, and there is just this, this 12-month, 13-month window to get applications in to achieve this additional 19% square footage. It will take a bit of a process if it was to be extended. So we're operating that it won't be extended and that it will be this window of opportunities till the end of 2025. So we're going to focus on that.
Thank you for being with us. Appreciate it, Gavin.
Yeah,
round of applause. We have the good fortune of having Gary Pooni, the principal of Pooni Group, with us today. And Gary's going to walk us through the implications of multiplex and what it's like coming from the larger scale developments into a crowd of small builder investors like ourselves.
Yeah, Bill asked me to speak and set some context, right? Well, we're an urban planning firm, and while you're sort of been in the trenches with your small building and multiplex and townhouse projects, there's a bigger picture that he wanted me to communicate. And there's a lot of change that has happened in our cities and in our industry over the last century, the last 10 years, the last few years. And so as humanity, as a species, there's been a lot that has gone on with our own sort of personal evolution, but also with the evolution of the way that we live. So it's continued to change as time and decades have gone on, particularly when it comes to single family housing over the last 50 to 60 years, and eventually leading to what I think is the new single family housing in townhouse development. And so there's a reason why. Not that it's just the numbers work and it's profitable. So there's three things I want to communicate as to why that's happening. The first is around the changing natures of our cities and global urbanization. So the amount of change that has happened in our cities over the last 50 years, I would say, starting in around the 1950s, there was a fundamental shift of people moving into our urban areas. And so our employment was being focused there, our GDP was being focused there, and then our populations began moving there. So somewhere around 2014, 2015, we hit 51%. So the first time in history, more people lived in our cities than lived in the rural areas. And by the time we hit 2050, I think the number is going to be closer to 70%. So super fast growing cities, and it is getting exacerbated. Okay, that's number one. We're in a land-constrained region, obviously, but this graphic will show you we have an ocean, we have mountains, and we have this big agricultural land reserve, which super constrains, right, super constrains our urban containment boundary. So we have to do more with less. And so what's come out of that is the changing nature of our housing typologies. Forget the sort of the caveman cartoon that I had, and think just over the last 10 years, 5 years, and even since the pandemic. Pandemic brought a lot of micro changes. Some of us got pets, some of us got bread makers, some of us read one book and bragged about it on social media, got a Peloton and never used it, but posted about it quite a bit. So those types of things were micro changes, but there was systemic change, right, with the way that we work, the way that we shop, the way that we live, and the way that we communicate. That stuff was all happening, and it got super hyper accelerated during the pandemic. So that was the other change in terms of how we live. Where we live was the other part. This graphic is from the US. People seem to think, this urban myth, rural myth, that people were leaving the urban areas and moving way out into rural areas. That didn't happen. Over 90% of people that migrated or moved during the pandemic were just leaving sort of the center of the hot plate of the urban areas and just moving to the edge. Think of going from Vancouver to Surrey or from Kitsilano into Langley. That's the kind of stuff that was happening, but still within that urban area. The third piece is townhomes, small buildings, that wood frame construction. If you take a look at the red line and the blue line, this is residential average prices. So up until, say, 2014, 2015, the delta between the green and the red, green being apartments and red being townhouses, it was pretty close. And then it got quite separated around the pandemic, where the value of townhouse and the demand for townhouse and that wood frame product took off. So in terms of the context of the work that you're doing with showcasing development projects, what I wanted to do was give you some context, tell a bit of a story as to like sort of what's happening in the industry and giving you a why. And so what we're seeing as urban planners and people working in all sectors of the land development industry is that the new single family home is a townhouse. And while the single family house price, the traditional detached home, continues to be high, that product continues to get eroded, and townhouse will be the place where the highest demand will be in the marketplace. Couple that with the entitlement, that's the process changes that the province and the cities are bringing in, it becomes a very logical, easy step for you to build, but then also a logical step for a family that is graduating from a condo or an apartment into a house. It's that intermediate, okay? So take a look at the new rules that the cities are implementing when it comes to this scale of development. It's going to be made easier. There already have been hundreds of applications. There will be more. So it should be an easier form of development from an entitlement perspective, right? From getting your approvals at the city. So in wrapping up, I would say when things are not easy, we do like to keep a sense of humor because our work is super stressful. So we do try to have some levity with the work that we do. On top of that, we want to make sure that we take care of ourselves. And I punctuate all of my talks with this story. Back in 2019, before the pandemic, November 3rd, working 60 to 80 hours a week, I had a massive heart attack, went into cardiac arrest. Some of you know this story. Died in front of my family. I had a 0.1% chance of survival, barely made it. And here I am, speaking to you on a, whatever it's called, 5D IMAX theater. And there was a likelihood that I was not going to survive. So the work that we do in our industry is super stressful. The sense of humor is one part of it, but make sure that you take care of yourself. Okay, I just wanted to pass that message. The QR code up there is for a foundation, our family foundation, our corporate foundation for all the work that we do in the community. There's stuff around cardiac health, helping kids in daycares and feeding them, and a bunch of other work that we do in the charity. Bill and his group made a donation of $15,000 to our nonprofit, which was great. That's going to help feed kids in daycares and also go into cardiac health. So I want to thank him for always supporting us in the work that we do. All right, let's go small builders. Thank you.
We're pleased to have Benoit Sorel, who will be showcasing a 71-unit rental building in Port Alberni.
I'm Mark Rasmussen with Real Broker, and today we have the privilege of introducing Suncap Investments, who have one of the more unique presentations today. They'll be introducing a fantastic investment opportunity in Port Alberni. Port Alberni, just 1 hour and 15 minutes from Nanaimo Ferry Terminal, is a tranquil retreat with modern amenities, stunning ocean views, endless outdoor activities, and a thriving art scene. Suncap specializes in purchasing rental buildings, improving tenant living conditions by adding value to existing assets, and then managing the asset. They also have 500 units, including 25 buildings, a 50-unit mobile home park, and 88-unit purpose-built rental developments in BC and Alberta. Benoit Sorel, the Suncap's chief executive officer, hails from France and is a risk finance and project management expert. He worked on multi-million-dollar projects, including his role as CEO on the Canada Line before shifting full-time to real estate. Suncap's past accomplishments, including an amazing New Westminster townhouse remodel, was a 2020 Georgie finalist for most outstanding kitchen renovation. Another highlight includes a 40-plex value-added New Brunswick that saw an increase in revenues while also returning 100% of initial equity investments to investors.
Hi, everybody. This is Adam Graham with Real Broker, the project site. It's walking distance to Alberni Harbor Quay, and you've also got a less than 1% vacancy rate for 1 to 3 bedrooms. 71 units, average unit size of 615 square feet. And we've also got 50,000 square foot of leasable areas, low vacancy rates in the secondary market. CMHC MLI Select Financing. That will allow us to get a loan of 94% of the costs. Building permits have already been approved, and we are ready for construction in Q1 of 2025.
So Benoit was the former CEO of the Canada Line SkyTrain operations. Over the past 2.5 years, Benoit, you've financed over 20 projects through the CMHC MLI Select program across Canada. The majority of these projects have been existing rental buildings, improving the living conditions and refinancing. Through Suncap Investments, you're raising $1.2 million for a secured rental building in Port Alberni. The project has an approved building permit, and you expect to receive approval for your CMHC financing at 94% loan to cost. How did the transition from being the former CEO of the Canada Line benefit you as a real estate developer?
So the transition was not too difficult. I've been investing for the last 20 years, so that was always on the back evening and weekend, like a lot of us do. This experience leading the Canada Line was eye opener. This showed me to how we can build self-funded transit projects with the help of real estate developers. The success also of the Canada Line led to the construction of the REM, which is the new transit project in Montreal, but 10 times bigger than the Canada Line. And finally, I got the experience working with all the level of the government, which helped me with dealing with CMHC.
What led to your decision to purchase land in Port Alberni for a rental construction?
Why going to Port Alberni? Port Alberni was, in fact, I went to Port Alberni to see a building, an existing buildings, and part of my visit, I fell on this lot that checked all the boxes. And checking all the boxes for me means 3 FSR. It's pro-development. The city is pro-development. There was a minimum parking ratio, which is 50%. And the land cost was minimal with a high upside. So it definitely was an amazing investment. We purchased the land for $600K and it's appraised at $3.9 million.
When we first met and you proposed this project, it took me a while to fully comprehend what the opportunity was. And that's partly because it sounded a little bit too good to be true. For this rental building in Port Alberni, if you're raising $1.2 million, you're going to give the full $1.2 million back on project completion, and you can retain ownership in the rental asset in perpetuity. How is that possible?
So the leverage is a key aspect in this structure. So we purchased the land 2 years ago. So the target was 100% at completion, construction completion. So it was essentially 25% year on year, which is in a range of other developments. Now for the raise that we are doing today, 1.2 million, there's 2 years to go to completion. So now we are talking about same objective, 100% money back for the investors coming, which is 50% year on year. So the reason how it is being done, it's starting with a very high loan to cost, thanks to, again, CMHC financing, which offers 95% up to 95% loan to value, 1.1 DSCR, which allows to maximize the debt. So by having this high return on cost, this high leverage, it allows to provide higher equity returns.
When we talked, we were looking at the appraised value for this piece of property at $3.9 million from an independent third-party appraiser, and your land purchase price was $600,000.
Yeah.
The question was, why not take that land lift and apply that as equity? Can you talk to us about the constraints with CMHC financing and the timing of when they'll produce their first draws?
So the constraint to get CMHC financing, so it takes approximately 5 months now. So the process has changed in September 1st, 2024, so a month ago. Before, it used to be you apply for CMHC, get the COI within 3 months, and after probably 2 months to get to funding. So get your commitment letter and funding after. The process has changed now. It's you need to get the underwriting start with the commitment with the lender first, the term sheet. Then you get to the COI. So the process, the length is the same, but the order of things is different. In order to qualify to get funding, you need to get, with my notes, I'm sorry, to not forget anything. What do we have? Oh, yeah. So we need to have a minimum 5 units, obviously, to be commercial. We need to provide social outcome. So whether it is a combination of individually, you can have solely affordable units, or also now a mix of energy or accessibility. Again, the rule of the game have changed in I think it's 19th of June 2024, like 3 weeks ago. Energy used to be a preferred solution where you could do 100 points and get 40%, get 100 points with 40% of or step code 3, because we're talking about new construction. Now you get only 50 points, which means you need to combine energy with affordability or with accessibility. So those are the key and important element. We need to have a building permit in place, And the construction budget also needs to be 66% or more firm quotes. And last but not least, the borrowers need to provide at least 25% of net worth of the amount of the loan.
Excellent. Well, this opportunity and what really stood out to me when I was looking at CMHC financing was that before CMHC would finance the construction, you would have to have all your city fees paid. You would have to have cash reserves in the bank and a number of other items before you can access that draw, which leads to the higher cash requirement before getting funding, but you'll be able to recoup all of that on occupancy. Tell us about, as a final question here, your business model to move into multiplex on Vancouver Island.
The business model to go with...
After this project, and we've talked about the opportunity in Victoria and multiplex. Tell us about what your plans are.
So we are working towards, at the moment, with some partners and I, to do some partnership with landowners. The idea is to be agnostic in the outcome of the deal. So we're really positioning ourselves to help magnify or create value for the owner, transform, flip, replace a single family to a multifamily with a maximum density possible. So in Victoria, for example, a corner lot can give up to 9 units. If you do also, you can go traditionally 6 units, and so it's between 4. Obviously, depending on the size, it's 4 to up to 9. So this is key for rental development. We are always trying to push for rental developments. The idea again would be to offer either a consulting agreement to the owner, and therefore to position ourselves as developers, development managers, and help them get to replace a single family to a multi of up to 9 units, which would be amazing. The only reason they would obviously, traditionally, they would keep the preference. We expect that these owners will prefer to keep the asset, and therefore that would be the development, the management, the consulting agreement, if you want. But the conditions to meet to do this is they need to qualify for CMHC loans. They need to have all the net worth, all the conditions we just discussed. Alternatively, if they cannot qualify, we position this time as partners, and so we do is a JV or limited partnership in order to bring the same project to completion, but this time we will share the profit a certain way.
Excellent. Well, it's exciting. Thank you, Benoit, for being here. It's exciting to see the CMHC rental opportunity in multiplex. Next is Icon Projects. Icon Projects is a master home builder, Sanj Aggarwal in Abbotsford.
Hello everyone, my name is Amardeep Oberoi. I am a realtor with Zolo Realty. I'm here to introduce Icon Projects. It is located on 2749 McCallum Road, a triplex development in Abbotsford. Sanj has been building homes since 2006. He's a master residential builder for the last 20 years. Icon manages logistics directly instead of outsourcing to reduce costs, scheduling errors, and cost controls. They use BuildExact software to control waste and the hard cost budget. They are a local builder who live in Abbotsford, and they build in Abbotsford, and they have office in Abbotsford.
Hi, my name is Human Taba with the Royal LePage and also HT Realty Group. We expect the BP on this project in next 2-3 weeks. We have 7,300 square feet, a 60 by 129 lot with a lane access. We designed a triplex that would target buyers who are looking for a bit more than what a townhouse would offer, while avoiding direct competition with duplexes. We have larger home at 2,200 square feet, lock-off rental suite, detached single-car garage, 10 by 10 grass backyard. But the most important differentiator is that you own a defined piece of land and there are no strata fees or annoying bylaws to deal with. We believe this product is what the new wave of buyers crave. To summarize the opportunity with Icon Projects, the development will be viable for bank financing with a minimum revenue of $1.275 million per unit. Based on our experience as real estate professionals, the current market demand for this type of product in Abbotsford will support the project viability.
Thank you. Let's welcome Sanj Aggarwal to the stage. Sanj, please tell us about the Master Home Builder designation and the importance?
Well, BC did not have formal licensing requirements until 1999. And it wasn't until about 15 years ago where builders were required to perform CPD hours to retain their license. So I like to consider that as being a minimum standard to be a builder. What a master builder designation does for me is it requires me to not only be accountable to the association, but accountable to our clients, to not just follow code, but to follow best practices, because they are two different things, really.
Talk to us more about that, the idea that home builders will build to code or home builders will build to best practices. What is the difference between code and best practices? And give us an example.
Well, a lot of builders rely on trades to know what they have to do. But unfortunately, a lot of trades have learned on the job from somebody who's also learned on the job. So it sort of becomes like a game of telephone. As a master builder, it's my job to know code requirements just as well, if not better than my trades, to just make sure that they're done properly, not just for a house in general, but for the house that's being built in that specific environment.
You've shared examples where a trade may have deficiencies and your team, having contracting experience, will finish those deficiencies rather than calling the trades back, wasting time and potentially increasing cost of the budget. Talk to us a little bit about the decision-making to have all of your team be from a contracting background.
So our project managers started off as carpenters, and essentially we used technology and software to sort of fill in the gaps on the project management side. So now when we are on site and we have an inspection or we have a critical path to follow, our carpenters will go to their truck, grab their tools, fix any deficiencies, and we can essentially roll on from there. We don't have to wait for a trade, call back, and delay our job.
We discussed yesterday the impacts on the step codes and step code requirements in new home construction. Can you share some of the examples of where there are challenges meeting the step code and the complexities of constructing now today?
Good question, Bill. So the two major factors that affect your construction project is air infiltration and water infiltration. So if we go back to the 1980s, homes had naturally leaky envelopes. So essentially, if water were to get into the walls in the winter, over the course of the summer seasons, the walls would dry out and you wouldn't have any water-related issues. With step code now, we are building tighter and tighter envelopes. So if you ever do have water infiltration in the walls, it is not going to dry out naturally. It's going to cause mold and rot and structural issues. So when it comes to air barrier and waterproofing, it is ultra critical, and your trades really need to know the science behind building a house in order to do their jobs properly.
That's interesting. I never thought about how some of the energy step code would affect some of the natural ventilation that homes were constructed to have previously. You have an approved development for a 3-unit row house project in Abbotsford. It has an approved building permit application. Can you share the differences between row homes and strata developments?
Well, row homes have their own unique PID. That means that you own all the land that your home is located on. There's no stratas to deal with, no regulations as far as home-based businesses, no rental restrictions. One of the key factors, one of the key selling features in our development is that it has a lock-off suite. So if you're a home-based professional, you can have your business there, or if you want to open it up to Airbnb, you're more than welcome to do that also.
Looking at the spread of hard cost construction budgets from the variety of builders today, you're the most economical, being able to construct below $200 per square foot on hard costs. Share with us how you approach the hard cost budgets and how you're able to achieve such efficient construction.
So before I got into new home construction, I was in the supplier end of construction, and we quickly realized that not a lot of construction companies knew how and when to order. construction companies regularly didn't perform their own takeoffs, so estimates were based on ballpark. Early on in Icon's life, we invested in project management software and takeoff software. So we do all of our own ordering, we do all of our own logistical arrangements, which helps us really tighten up timelines as well as reduce the amount of wastage we have on site.
It's impressive. Now, your project in Abbotsford, you have the approved building permit. You're going to be ready for construction in the first quarter of 2025, and you're opening that project up for a $750,000 opportunity for investors. It's an 18-month hold, over a 20% return. What would you like investors to know about the opportunity to build a relationship with you moving into the future?
So we are we're looking for construction management opportunities with developers and builders, joint ventures with homeowners with property, and we'd love to see we'd love to see people on board with our Abbotsford project as well.
We've engaged you to do some work on our project. It's been a great experience for us, and I look forward to growing our relationship in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
The most unique development proposal today. They have a development for a 4-story condo building that fits the zoning bylaws in Burnaby under the R1 zoning.
Hi, my name is Dan Roberts with Oakland Realty, and I'm happy to introduce Turnkey Multiplex. Alvin and his partner Cheng are looking to take advantage of the BC Multiplex opportunity by providing an affordable housing solution by thinking a little bit outside the box. Alvin grew up in Canada but moved to Silicon Valley during the tech boom and has been a part of many startups including Google, LinkedIn, Visa, Costco, and many more. Recently decided to move back to Canada 2 years ago to take on Turnkey Multiplex and provide affordable construction and housing in the city of Burnaby. Partner Cheng is the owner-operator of SEL Engineering and has been involved with construction with his dad since he was 15 years old. Alvin and Cheng identified that the BC's new multiplex rules presented a great opportunity to develop a 4-story, 4-unit building. Turnkey Multiplex offers a 5-step process. Home buyers enter into a pre-development agreement. Turnkey Multiplex designs custom floor plans, development equity contributed by homeowners. Turnkey Multiplex builds to suit, and home buyers benefit from the development profit. This will then reduce the cost of ownership by up to 20 to 30%.
My name is Amrit Sidhu. I'm a realtor with Sudden Group Dream Home Realty. When most builders think of a multiplex, they think of a large, wide lot. What's unique about Turnkey Multiplex is that they intend to provide a solution for the small 33-foot lots. In this example, the land size is roughly 4,000 square feet. There's going to be 1 unit per floor, roughly 1,600 square feet of living space. There'll be a central elevator. It consists of 4 bedrooms or potentially 3 bedrooms plus a flex space, depending on client's wishes. And it also includes a designated laundry room. To summarize, a home buyer who participates as the developer will be able to own a 1,600 square foot home for $1.3 million. That is almost a 20% savings over a standard home, which are selling well above $1,000 a square foot. The benefit for buyers participating at the early stage is that there will be no developer profits. This is a unique opportunity for multi-family home buyers to participate in the development of their new homes.
Welcome to the stage, Alvin. Alvin, you're taking the build-to-suit single-family construction where a homeowner could build their own home, hire a builder, finance it themselves, and save on the developer profit to the multiplex space. How has your experience working at companies like Google, LinkedIn, and Visa led to the development of this concept?
So if you look at almost all Silicon Valley internet startups, they look at the concepts of aggregation. So we're bringing together for buyers and disintermediation and eliminating middlemen that don't provide value, in this case, developers. Well, we'll be doing the developing, but I mean, you know.
I understand the concept. But it's interesting, and it's a big savings, and it's a unique way to approach home ownership. One of the challenges that we see is having 4 home buyers financing the construction. How are you going to resolve the decision-making process so that you can continue to deliver the product?
So they're going to be required to sort of follow the outside envelope. As you saw, it's a simple box. They can manage their floors. Beyond that, we have the Bell Alliance, the lawyers. They have a legal framework, and they've pre-approved our legal model that we believe that we can, and any delays that the homeowners introduce, they know that they're paying for that delay. So we believe that we can, it's a manageable problem.
with the right expectations at the outset, I can see how you can navigate that. And when there's hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings available to them, that there will be buyers who will appreciate this opportunity. The 4-story condo that you designed is designed for cost efficiencies. Walk us through how you've approached the design of the 4-story building.
So with my partner, Cheng, who's a structural engineer, we determined how each floor is identical. So the plumbing stack is efficient. The walls line up. So there's not extra, easements and extra things sticking out that take longer to build. It's designed to be built as efficiently as possible to provide the biggest luxury, which is space in the Metro Vancouver area.
And this is really looking at the concept for downsizers who may be buying mortgage-free and have the capital to participate. And evidenced today by Lightwell Developments, when one of their pre-sale buyers not only purchased a pre-sale, but also put additional equity in to participate in the profit. So you're taking this just one step further.
Yes. And that's one of the reasons we designed it with an elevator, because we feel that the most common market for this is going to be downsizers and maybe parents who want their children to live in the same building. They're like, oh, well, I'll build it and have my grandchildren be in the same house as me so I can see them all the time. And that's worth something to me.
Earlier this year, you applied for a 6-story urban design competition, and you became one of the finalists with hundreds of applications from across the globe. How did you perform so well without an architectural background?
The key in analyzing a new industry is, you can come in with wild ideas. So as part of my team, I had an architecture student, Melanie, and structural engineer, Cyrus from Toronto. So we created a virtual team, and I listened to their expertise because, you can have crazy ideas, but you can't beat physics. But I did the financial modeling, and we were able to come up with an innovative and economical design. That actual design, plus some of the other winning concepts, were part of our inspiration for our new multiplex design.
Excellent. So how will Turnkey Multiplex work with, if you're going to put the developers like myself out of business, how will you work with the realtors?
So, although we have no interest in getting rid of the realtors, because
find developers.
Yeah, that's right, just developers. Because there'll be other development opportunities, but the key is for us to find experienced sales force and train them up. That's crazy. When we have a completely experienced sales force available to us that we didn't have to pay to train, we just have to pay them commissions to motivate them, and we're fine with that. That there's margin in there, and we believe that we can provide real value, and plus the realtors know the consumers. They know that they can talk to the people. They know who wants to sell and who wants to aggregate, and they can bring people together. And that's a lot of work, and they need to be compensated for that.
Well, we joke, but the reality is it's a big industry, and there's lots of place for developers and for the home buyers who are sophisticated or have the confidence to move forward and want to capture that savings to work with groups like yourself. So for the realtors here today, if you have home buyers who have the liquidity and have the experience or confidence to move into the development side of the business to benefit from that 20 to 30% savings on the gross cost of housing, what's the best way for that? Anyone in the crowd here to get in touch with you?
We have our website is tkmultiplex.ca, and there's a Google form on there to express interest and collect more information. We're going to be aggregating, like I said, the buyers in particular areas, and then we'll be looking for property.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Next, we have the pleasure to introduce long-term clients, Bill and Gail Brar with Silverleaf Homes.
Darzada. I'm a realtor here in BC over the last 15 years, primarily focused in the Lower Mainland. Today we're showcasing Silverleaf Homes. They got 4 quality builds here in Port Moody. These are going to be detached homes with suites and the option to add a coach house in the back or not, and having a little extra yard space. Silverleaf Homes consists of 2 brothers, Bill and Gail Brar. They've been doing lots in the community over the last 30 years, farming industry, They've donated to schools, police departments, different organizations across the Lower Mainland. Very, very charitable group, and they've been building for now 15 years and built some very high-quality homes. Here you can see some of their past successes. They pride themselves on building custom quality spec homes. My favorite being the one on Mount Royal. This one is just a couple doors down from where I live. I walk past it almost every single day, and you can tell the quality that they have. They pride themselves on always going above and beyond, building homes where they can see their own families moving in and living in.
Hello, everyone. My name is Connor. I'm with eXp Realty as well as Laidler Academy. You can see here the lot itself for each unit is going to be 4,900 square feet, and the average total living space to be 4,500 square feet. You're going to have views of the North Shore Mountains, and this is an area where it's going to be rare to find new construction for detached homes. Project financials. To summarize the opportunity with Silverleaf Homes, this development will be viable for bank financing with a minimum revenue of $2.6 million per detached home, averaging 4,500 square feet over 3 levels. This includes budgets to cover the costs for land value, hard costs, soft costs, financing, and while having a minimum project margin of 18%. Commission, traditional banks will see this project as viable with a minimum of $10.4 million of total revenue, which we'll get from selling all 4 units for at least $2.6 million. Based on our experience as real estate professionals, the current market demand for this type of product in Port Moody will definitely support the project viability.
Welcome, Bill Brar. Bill and his brother Gail are some of the most understated builders that I've experienced my working career with as a real estate agent. They run one of the largest floral and vegetable garden farming operations in Western Canada. Bill, what does it mean for you to be running such a large operation and also being transitioning to home construction? And tell us a little bit about how your two businesses complement each other.
First off, so a bit of history. We've been in farming since the late 80s, and we went from 30,000 square feet of greenhouse space to over 2 million square feet of greenhouse space, specializing in potted plants and moving to annuals and to vegetable production now, hydroponic vegetable production. Along that road, we worked with big box retailers from Costco, Home Depot, and we continue to work with them. And understanding production and scaling a business up, we're moving towards doing the same with our real estate business, which would mean, right now we deal with millions of seedlings, production of those seedlings, and things that matter are quality, production costs, and timelines, which we're moving towards our real estate businesses, why we want to scale that up.
For anyone who saw the garden markets, the pop-up garden markets, Urban Roots, Bill and Gail are the principals behind Urban Roots. And Gail once sent to me early in our relationship that when you build spec homes, you want to build them to quality as if you or your family was moving into those homes. Why do you take the extra level of commitment to the quality in a marketplace that at times there's such low supply that the buyers will accept whatever quality is provided to them?
We take a lot of pride in our builds. So Gail and I, my brother and I, both, we feel our name is at the end of the day on that house. And we can go back to any of the houses that we built and approach the owners and quite honestly, get a very good recommendation from them. So eye to detail, quality, thoughtful designs, and we stand behind our product. You're only as good as your last build.
You've built a number of single-family homes in the Tri-Cities over the years. Tell us about your experience going through the rezoning process, and try not to blame your realtor.
The rezoning process, so if we're to go back to our Port Moody builds, when we entered the city, we saw an opportunity where Vancouver had much smaller lots and lot splits where you could take the average lot size is approximately 4,000 square feet. In Port Moody, the majority of the older home lots are around 8,000 square feet. So we saw an opportunity to potentially split lots and make 2 lots out of them, cost average our land purchase down, and build a more affordable home. At that time, it was considered affordable, but now, I'm getting off topic, but the single family homes are getting more and more expensive. But that process took from initiation. We were the first group that approached the city of Port Moody and brought the RS1S to them, suggesting that we move in that direction. And that took 3 years. So 3 years from owning a piece of property, incurring interest, of course, and the carrying cost, which obviously takes away from profitability. And I'd say some of the more challenging parts of that process are there's no certainty. There's no certainty saying that you're going to get your building permit or this is going to go through immediately. We finally did get the RS1S zoning in, but even from that point, it's and to give the city a bit of room there or slack, they're still learning and implementing those new policies to get those smaller house builds in. And you end up being a bit of a guinea pig in the timeline. So before we even swung our first hammer, it was well over 3 years.
So you have rezoning now, and you're going to open up the opportunity to invest with you in the new home construction for these 4 single-family homes in the new year. Talk to us about the location of this product, Port Moody in general, and why you see this being a success.
One of the reasons we have stuck with Port Moody is because this process is so difficult, there's also limited supply. So we're creating a restriction in new product that's on the market in single family. Our returns have been very good. It's just the timelines have been very long. So what we do is we get involved in a project and then we sit on that project for a period of time, but the returns are good.
In the Addy deck, you'll see that for financing, you'll be doing a $1.75 million equity raise from investors while providing at least a 20% return on equity, and that's at a $2.6 million resale value, which we expect them to perform at a higher level. Thank you for being here. It's been a pleasure. I'll ask you one more question. You've now seen me for 10 years. What's it like from the first time that you met, and what's it been like with our journey?
I was actually thinking about this while we're sitting, with my brother and I. We're fortunate, like when one of our strengths is our team. The same team that we have currently has built over 20 homes in the last decade. And part of that team has always been Bill Laidler and the Laidler group. You've been a stand-up guy, shoulder to shoulder. And, like anything, any business, there's ups and downs, there's challenges, and Bill's always been right by our side. It's been an amazing journey. Yeah.
Thank
you.
you.
We look forward to the next decade.
Let's go make it happen. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that, Bill. We're on to our last builder showcase. This is the largest developer. They probably do not fit in the small builder classification that we're launching this, but it will give you a contrast between the small scale multi-unit housing and developers who are still moving towards larger scale multifamily. This is Azure Properties Group.
I'm Michaela with Axford Real Estate, here to introduce Azure Properties Group. They currently have a development project at the 800 block of Sangster in New Westminster, comprised of 187 attainable condos and apartments. Established in 1991, Azure is a second-generation developer who has built over 1,000 homes in the Greater Vancouver area in the past 25 years. Navi holds a master's degree in both architecture and urban planning. Gavin is a CPA and also the former president of the Sapperton Community Association. Azure focuses on finding developments that will benefit the community and work together with the city, staff, and council to make sure that the project meets the city's needs, but also benefits project investors.
My name is Ryan Dash with the Vancouver Life Real Estate Group. Average unit sizes for this particular development are about 615 square feet, and 80% is going to be dedicated to strata, with 20% going to below market rentals, with 75% of the development being under $500,000. Traditional banks will see this project as viable with a minimum revenue of $540,000 per unit. This includes budgets to cover the costs for land value of $17.2 million, hard costs of $52.2 million, soft costs of $7.6 million, and financing costs of $8.75 million. It has a minimum project margin of 15%.
Welcome, Navi, Sivia. So for the realtors in the crowd, you may relate with this experience going down to City Hall, asking the front desk planners what the development potential is for a specific piece of property, advising our clients that the potential is whatever the city told us it is, and then a purchaser like Navi buys the land, 1 year later has it approved for significantly higher density. How do you achieve this success?
Well, I'm just going to give away my secret Big Mac sauce. Let's just say it's not Thousand Island dressing. Great question. I attribute a lot of that to a multidisciplinary team. And my wife is here with me today as well, and she's part of our team. I don't necessarily advocate working couple relationships, but after several failed attempts and no failed marriages, we've made it work. Contact me for a counseling service after. Getting back to the question, it comes from a long-standing understanding of our industry, and through the education that Michaela was outlining earlier, I pursued a bachelor's in construction management at an early age, and I've been on site since I was very young, and pursued a master's in architecture and a master's in urban planning. Really, it's about understanding your industry better than who's sitting across from you, and oftentimes that's city staff. And also understanding that oftentimes a staff member has only been with the municipality for, let's say, 3 to 5 years, and the policy that they're reviewing with you might be 10, 15 years old. So the onus is on us to understand the policy for ourselves and not rely solely on staff to interpret policy or know the policy front to back.
Tell us about the example for the land assembly that you purchased in Maple Ridge.
Right. That example, so there was a land assembly being sold by a local realtor with commercial understanding and knowledge, and he was actually selling a local builder / developer, small scale developer builder site that he had been sitting on for some time. They had checked with city staff, and it was told to them that they can develop a duplex per lot. And we put the site under contract. I had a hunch that there was something amiss here given the location, proximity, and other features of the site. Delved through hundreds of pages of policy and determined that there was a few clauses that had allowances for mid-rise for very specific criteria. We went through the criteria, and to our understanding, the site checked off all the boxes. We confirmed that through an email with the city. The city was confused, and they said, give us a few days. They came back to us and said, you are correct. We will allow mid-rise on these parcels. We removed subjects, and we had a very tight closing time. Immediately after subject removal, what do you know? City came back and rescinded. And well, that's what you do when part of what we do well in our organization is we lean on our relationships with senior management, council, mayor, in a lot of the municipalities we work in. So we took to the ground and we met with council members, we met with mayor, and we advocated for our argument. And what do you know, on like a few days later on a Friday evening, I get a call from the city manager saying, oh, just joking, you're good to proceed. Our staff was confused. And yeah, we got approved for 55-unit condos on what should have been a few duplexes.
The key there is the hundreds of pages of policies. I assume this is official community plans, other supporting policies that are referenced in the plans, and
yeah, you go down a bit of a rabbit hole because there's a lot of cross-referencing. So OCP is general in nature, of course, and it will reference things very loosely and vaguely. And you have to cross-reference that with actual definitions. So yeah, it's a lot of cross-referencing and fact-checking.
Well, we saved you to be last because you're going to tell us why majority of the builders here who are moving to small-scale multi-unit housing may not be the same risk profile or may be better served investing in a project like your own, which is a 6-story development in New Westminster. Talk to us about how you see the benefits and risks of small-scale multi-unit housing compared to a 6-story development.
Yeah, there are no risks with 6-story development, no. Obviously, the time horizon and the subjectivity that staff has to combat your proposal in the 6-story form is riskier than Burnaby's multiplex, which you can forego the DP process, which I think is amazing. We have to go through a full form and character DP process, which has a lot of subjectivity allowances for staff. And then obviously the time horizon to have that approved is a factor as well. I mean, I would almost make a reverse not an argument, but a position where we're more competing with the advantages of wood frame 6-story versus concrete. New Westminster is primarily a concrete community. Versus concrete, we have a much shorter time horizon, and when we have far more cost certainty as well. When concrete sales are happening, it's oftentimes 4 or 5 years before the units are actually going to be occupied. They're having to sell at today's market, and by the time the units are occupied, two things are certain in construction. Construction costs escalate over time, and the costs of the units typically in the Lower Mainland escalate as well. So those are opposing forces for pre-selling so early. So in wood frame 6-story, we have a shorter time horizon, which is a great cost, just a overall risk mitigator.
When we were talking yesterday, we were looking at the supply of multiplex and how there is such a significant risk on what the revenue numbers will be. Will we continue to hold at the price points with 1,100 units coming to be available in 2025? For your development on Sangster, your average unit size is 515 square feet. The majority of your product will be sold under $600,000. So what you go through in pain and suffering to get to the approval stage, you're more protected on the supply side.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of the answer to this is actually an extension of the previous question, which is another risk mitigator when it comes to this scale of development is that in a multiplex, you know how many units you're going to get. It's finite. For a lot, you're going to get 4 to 6 units in most cases. And so your upside is very well known because everybody's competing on the same land purchase. Whereas the only projects that Azure targets are ones of extreme value. So we have to really knock it out of the park and get value that's unprecedented. So what we did on this site was it was actually purchased as ground oriented, which means either duplex or townhome. So we should have obtained about 40 stacked townhomes. And through aligning and understanding with staff and council and mayor's priorities, we built in community benefits into the project that aligned with the city's priorities in exchange for density, of course. And that's how we were able to get to 194 units. So our value on the land is extreme compared to the density that we bought it for. And on this project, we are both paying that forward to our fellow investors, but also then to our future buyer pool. And in our product type, we have a far greater buyer pool because we have studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, and 2-story townhomes flanking the entire perimeter of the project to make sure that we hit the actual family-friendly units as well. So, we have first-time home buyers, we have investors, we have downsizers, we have young professionals, we have young families. So far greater buyer pool at a wider range of price points. The product that seems to be sitting right now is unfortunately the family-friendly housing, and I don't think that's because of it's a lack of demand. I feel that, obviously with the interest rates and the stress to qualify with very high income is the cause for that product sitting.
You're currently open for investment. You have a dealing representative, Arvis, who is handling your raise. Somewhere in the vicinity of $2 million is open, $2.5 million. You're open for investment.
Yeah, that amount is very quickly dwindling due to the success of our investment campaign right now. Up till right now, we have had a minimum $200,000 investment. It's been through accredited investors, a lot of friends and family. And most recently, as Bill mentioned, we started working with Arvis. And we're very excited to announce that as early as possibly end of next week, we will have a minimum $25,000 investment to participate in this. We've had an LP running on this project for quite a while. Not quite a while, but I mean, it's an established LP. It's not something that just got rolled out last week. And we've had a successful campaign, but we're excited to enter this segment to allow everyone to basically be eligible to invest in an exciting new big upside development almost at any dollar value. And we're even more excited to, equally as excited to be working with Addy, who will be presenting for a late January launch for investments of any dollar size. And that'll be a short 90-day campaign that'll probably should sell out quickly.
So to confirm, you're currently offering investors the opportunity to invest with you at your current land base, which is significantly lower than your appraised land value, but only for this round of investors. For the next round on the construction draw, then these investors will benefit from that land lift. Thank you, Navi, for being here, and let's give a warm welcome to Steve Jagger with Addy.
Thanks. Thank you very much for having me. My name's Steve Jagger. I'm one of the co-founders of Addy. For those that don't know, Addy's an online investment platform that enables everyone to invest in institutional commercial grade real estate. To give you a quick background on sort of how we got here, myself and my business partner is a guy named Mike Stevenson. He and I have been business partners for about 25 years now. Addy's our fifth company together. I recognize and have talked to some of you, a lot of the realtors in the room. You might remember Ubitor. Mike and I started the company Ubitor, which powered residential realtor websites. We started that company in 2003, sold it to a Singapore group in 2013, but that's kind of how our sort of world got started. Mike and I have been in the technology space for quite some time, almost 25 years. We started working together in June of 2000. And so fast forwarding to where we are today, Addy is basically an online technology platform to enable everyone to participate in the ownership of real estate. The reason why we're here is kind of what they were just talking about, is this world is generally minimum investments of $25,000, $250,000, $1 million. There's always quite large minimum investment numbers. And the reason for those high minimums is because it's very hard and costly to deal with investors, right? You have to sign a subscription agreement with them. You have to make the subscription agreement. You have to move the money, accept the wire, do investor updates, create the tax slips, all of the things that you can think of that would be painful and costly when you're dealing with investors is why these groups have higher minimums, with the purpose of having the smallest number of investors possible for the largest checks possible, right? So they'd rather have 5 investors than 50 investors than 5,000 investors. Oops. It's always the smallest number of investors is the way that most real estate operators go. And so what we decided to do back in 2018 was, could we build a platform? Could we build a software technology platform that it would enable real estate operators to do what they do, but make their opportunities available to the crowd for as little as $1, so that someone could choose an amount that was prudent for them. If it was $50, $500, $5,000, $50,000, whatever your amount is fine. But it's more about, can we make the software, make it work so that you could enable people to make an investment for a dollar amount that suits them. And so we started back in 2018. The original idea was, what we wanted to do was figure out, do Canadians want to do this? Like, does everybody in this room want to be able to participate in real estate ownership in this way? And so Mike and I set out to kind of prove that the concept would work. We went and bought a single family house on Trout Lake, backs right onto Trout Lake. And the idea was, we were going to buy this house, rip it down, build a duplex, sell the 2 units, and cash out ourselves and the investors. And what we were really trying to do was not only do all that, but we wanted to see if we could put this opportunity onto a very rudimentary version of what is Addy today. Would regular Canadians, people off the street, people we didn't know, when they found the website, did they want to invest like this? Did they want to invest in a specific address for a smaller dollar amount? And would they actually do it? And so we set out to kind of prove that that was the case with this proof of concept property. So we bought that house 2018. We put it onto the platform, and we sort of put it out to Canadians and said, here's this opportunity. Are you interested in investing? We had 300 investors choose to participate in the ownership of that property, along with Mike and I. And of course, 100 of those people are for sure related to me or to Mike. It's like my brothers, my parents, siblings, cousins, friends, high school friends, etc., which is fine. They're being helpful. They're, supporting us with our little idea or venture. But the other 200-ish people were really what we were concerned with, the people that we didn't know. Could we give them enough faith in what we were doing, build enough trust with them to not only sign up on some website that they found, but sign a subscription agreement, move money into the website, and actually do this. And that's what we were trying to prove was, would regular people that had no direct connection to us, would they do this? And so when those 300 investors chose to do so, it kind of validated for us that this opportunity was real, that we should sort of continue down the path. And so when we did that property back in 2018, we talked a lot about how the software was doing all the work. For sure, it was not doing all the work. It was very manual for us. There's no point in building a whole bunch of software just to find out it's a bad idea. You wasted a bunch of money building software to not continue with it. So we made a lot of it look nice. We automated some of it, but we were just really trying to validate it. And so once that happened, it proved to us that this was something that we could do. We took all of 2019 and most of 2020 building the software, and then started enabling people to invest in other opportunities that have come onto the platform. So fast forward to today, we've had 51 properties come onto the platform so far. We're now Canada's largest real estate crowdfunding platform. These properties that have come on are from all over the place. We've got 3 hotels in Quebec. We've got a Starbucks in Chilliwack. We've got multifamily buildings across the country. We've got 14 or 15 development opportunities that have come on the platform. We've got an 11-building business park in Calgary. We've got industrial properties. They kind of range. And the whole idea is that you guys now all have Addy accounts. You can see all these different sort of deals that are coming in from the Laidler community, but you can also see the past deals that have come into the platform, the ones that are available as well as the ones from the past. And the purpose is that you can choose to make an investment and invest in these opportunities for a dollar amount that suits you and into these opportunities that are across the country. Since the property number 47 prior was all equity, we've now started doing debt. So you can invest in debt opportunities for basically being a part of a first or a second mortgage where you're getting monthly cash flow. And we've also done our first American property. So we enabled Canadians to invest US dollars into US real estate. That one was a student housing complex in Oklahoma. And the next American property is going to come onto the platform shortly. And so again, the purpose is just to enable people to participate in this world. And so what I'm going to do, hopefully internet plays nice, is I'm going to run a real transaction just to sort of show you how the software works. I'm doing it on the desktop. I know if you've got your cell phones with you, there's an iOS app or there's an Android app, but I'm just going to show you like a real transaction in real time of how this all works. So I'm logged into my account. This is my real account. You can see I've got $250.96 in my wallet. If I click this other button here, you can see I've got a US dollar wallet. There's no money in it. I can move money back and forth between my Canadian bank account and my Addy wallet, and I can do that with my US dollar Canadian bank account and move money through the EFT system, or my Canadian dollar bank account into my Canadian dollar wallet. You can also interact money into your wallet. So there's multiple ways to be able to move money back and forth. This is probably one of the biggest things that we had to build, was the technology for moving the money at scale for small and large transactions. So we can enable people to fund their wallet with $1, and we can move $2 million to an issuer when an issuance is done. That's all done through the same technology that we've built for moving that money back and forth every day. If you I'll just show you around a quick couple things here. So I can click into my portfolio. You can see I'm in 50 properties. We make a little mini prop of each property so you can see a little sort of digital design of what the properties look like. Sorry, the internet is loading a little slow. This is the Harrison building in Calgary. This is owned by Port out of Vancouver. It's a developer here in Vancouver that has been buying multifamily buildings. But you can see my whole portfolio is below. You can dig into all the properties. I can go into my feed. The feed is kind of a, your Facebook feed type of a thing. There, I just got a distribution for one of the properties. This is from the debt offering that I'm part of, or I invested in. This is the feed I was talking about. There's my wallet. Like I said, you can see the wallet, you can see your balance, but I can also see the transaction. So I funded my wallet last night with $250 for today. But you can see all the dividends that come back. So I'm getting dividends that are coming from certain properties. They come back to me. They're all tied to certain transactions. So you can see I get a whole bunch of smaller dollar ones because I'm constantly doing this. So I've got thousands and thousands of transactions where I've invested $50, $500, $500, all this, instead of a single larger transaction into one. I've got lots of small ones, but when you see the dividends coming in, they're all tied to a specific transaction ID, and that money comes back into my Addy wallet. And then I have the ability to move that money back to my Canadian bank account or choose to invest again into whatever opportunity is available. If I click into the properties, There's a section, you all have it if you've signed up with the QR code that Bill's been talking about. There's a For You section, and then there's the property drops. The For You section will have all of these different opportunities that everybody's been presenting about today. These are only available for you. If you created your account and we gave you basically access, you see it says exclusive to you. So everybody else in the Addy community, is about 50,000 Canadians on the platform, they don't see any of these things. Only you guys see them because you've sort of essentially opted in to follow along with these projects where they're not available for investment, but it allows you to kind of see what's going on. And when they do, if they do become available for investment, they'll kind of flip over and become available so that you can invest. But if I go to the property drop side, there's 5 opportunities that are currently available on our platform. Again, none of this is investment advice. I'm making an investment for myself in my real account based on my decision and this sort of what I'm interested in. But you can see the different opportunities on the platform. When you dig into the opportunities, like if I go into this Harrison building, this is this multifamily building in Calgary. Hopefully the internet loads. But you can see the details. I can see there's $160,000 left in it of just shy of 1.1 million, which represents 15% of the equity for this building. But you can see all of the details of the property. You can see videos, there's a calculator. You can see 1,610 Canadians have already invested in this property for an average of $580.31. You can see the due diligence. So the due diligence is here, where you can look at the offering document, the limited partnership agreement, the shareholders agreement, estimated returns, pro forma, like it's all here. So you as the investor can dig through, read the information you want to read, look at the appraisal docs, like whatever it is that you're interested in or want to understand, you can find the due diligence. The most important piece is obviously the offering document. It summarizes the risks of the opportunity as well as what the plan is for the opportunity. And then if you did want to invest, and like I said, this is not investment advice, this is me choosing to do so, I can click invest. So the system runs me through a suitability questionnaire. This is through an exempt market dealer called Equivesto. So Equivesto, we've tied this third-party exempt market dealer, they're tied into our software. So they can do suitability on each transaction. So in this case, they'll do it once I'm done my transaction, they do it on me and my transaction. I can confirm my suitability. It says I qualify as an accredited investor, so I can go left and continue as an accredited investor. I can go right and continue as a retail investor. Becoming an accredited in the software just allows you to go higher than certain minimums. And then you can see I've got $250, so I can click max. It'll let me invest $250 into the property. I can read the offering document, which of course I've already read because I've invested in this property. I can confirm that I've already read it. I click invest. And then I click sign document. And so this looks really fast, but this is like a huge thing that just happened. It basically took all of the details of my personal information and has put it onto a subscription agreement in real time. And the software knows that I'm in British Columbia, that I'm a retail investor, and it's got my details and how many shares I'm buying. It's got all that and it put it onto the document. So our software is doing this, thousands of them a day in real time. If you're 18 in Alberta, it'll let you invest. If you're 18 in British Columbia, it won't let you invest because the age of majority in BC is 19. If you're a resident of Saskatchewan, the software has to put out another piece of paper that the Saskatchewan authorities require that gets signed. All of that stuff happens. If you're in Quebec, there's a bunch of French things that happen. So the system is smart enough to deal with all provinces, all territories, generate a subscription agreement in real time. If I click start, I go to sign, I'll create a signature. It's going to make me accept the risk acknowledgements. All of this is considered basically high risk investing when you're investing in private real estate like this. You have to acknowledge that. You sign, or I sign, and done. So now I just made a $250 purchase in basically real time in a few minutes here. I went slower while talking through it, but that's basically the transaction. And if I go back to my wallet, you'll see my money's now gone. The transaction has been made. And if I go back to my portfolio, my purchase will now show up, or my larger dollar amount. Now I've got $4,293 in that specific property. So a couple things to note of why this matters. So the movement of money, completely automated. This is how we can enable small dollar investors to participate all the way up to accredited investors that want to do large dollar amounts. The signature technology you just saw where I signed the subscription agreement, we had to build, we call that Addy sign, we had to build that. At the beginning, we had DocuSign tied into the software, but DocuSign, as you guys probably know, if you're most realtors in the room, you pay $3, $4, $5 per signature. we can't afford to pay $3, $4, $5 per signature if we're letting smaller dollar investors invest. And that's like one of the reasons why most people wouldn't let a small dollar investor invest. So at the beginning we did that, but it was something on our list of what needed to be done to automate. And so we built the AddySign technology. We basically built our own DocuSign competitor into the software so that we could eliminate that per signature cost, right? And we've done that for the generation of tax slips. At the end of the year, I will get a T5 or T5013 for all of the properties that I've invested in that are required to send it to me. We've automated all the generation of all those tax slips. So the issuer can go into their side of the system and push a couple buttons and the system will spit out 2,000 T5 slips. It notifies all of the investors. That shows up into their profiles. If you go to your profile, you can see there's a section for your tax slips, right? View tax slips. So there's statements, like the whole thing has been automated so that we can enable everybody to be able to participate. So with that said, that's meant to be how quick and easy it is. I will definitely finish off by saying none of this is investment advice. But if you do want to give the platform a try, you do have an account. It is free to use. You can invest literally as little as $1 up to an amount that suits you. It all run through third-party exempt market dealers who make sure suitability makes sense. But it's a great way to invest in real estate, learn about different markets, learn about different investment asset classes, and start to participate in this whole world of what everybody's been presenting about today. So thank you very much for letting me do this. Thank you for having me. And a bunch of my team is here if you've got any questions, and can help answer any questions you've got about being an investor or an issuer on the platform.
Before you go, Steve, the efficiencies on the investing side is impressive. But talk about, for a developer who wants to raise $500,000 from retail investors and are concerned, like I previously was before seeing Addy, about the paperwork and the administration of having to support all those small investors.
Yeah, so everything I've been showing is the investor side. There is a whole other side to the software called Addy Business. And the Addy Business side, there's kind of two versions of it. One is for the issuer. That's the person who's like the real estate developer or operator that's running the properties. And then there's the exempt market dealer side. So the exempt market dealers are in the software as well. Their version of it allows them to approve or decline transactions or adjust transactions, dollar amounts. There's a whole bunch of automation and functionality that enables them to do their job, because they have the same concerns of like, I don't want to deal with 2,000 transactions when I would normally deal with 10. So we had to build a functionality to make their lives easier. And then on the issuer side, again, it's all automated from a tax slip generation. When these guys want to do investor updates, you can log into your Addy Business account and do an investor update, pushing out a PDF, photos, text description, video, whatever it is that you want or wanting to update people on. You can all do that through the system. It notifies people in their email, and then they can also log back into their Addy account at any time, click on your portfolio, click into your property, and all the property updates are there. So you can keep in touch with what's going on.
It's impressive. We'll bring the showcase to an end. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. We appreciate it. Thank you, Addy, and to all the other presenters. We'll see you at the next one. To download the Small Builders project overviews and pro formas, use the QR code on the screen now or select the link below.